Canon Obi-Wan Kenobi. A Jedi Master and legendary general of the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi survived Order 66 after Clone Commander Cody turned on him on Utapau. As the clones fired, Obi-Wan narrowly escaped death by falling into a sinkhole during the battle against General Grievous. He later regrouped with Yoda and learned of Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side. After delivering baby Luke Skywalker to Tatooine, Obi-Wan went into self-imposed exile under the alias Ben. There, he secretly watched over Luke for nearly 2 decades, avoiding Imperial detection. In 0 BBY, he confronted Darth Vader aboard the Death Star and allowed himself to be struck down, becoming one with the Force. Obi-Wan's survival and actions post-Order 66 were crucial in laying the groundwork for the rebellion and shaping the destiny of the Skywalker lineage. Canon Yoda. Grandmaster Yoda survived Order 66 when Clone Commander Gree turned on him on Kashyyyk. Reacting instantly, Yoda beheaded Gree and his scout before escaping with help from the Wookiees. He later went into self-imposed exile on Dagobah, hiding from the Empire until his death in 4 ABY after training Luke Skywalker. Canon Ahsoka Tano. Though no longer a Jedi at the time of Order 66, Ahsoka Tano was caught in the purge while aboard the Republic cruiser Tribunal. Moments after helping capture Darth Maul, Ahsoka sensed a sudden, overwhelming shift in the Force, then watched as Clone Captain Rex, her trusted friend, turned on her. Unlike most Jedi, Ahsoka had the advantage of not being an active member of the Order, technically exempt from the clone programming. Even so, she refused to kill the clones, even when they tried to kill her. She managed to remove Rex's inhibitor chip, freeing him from the Order's control. Together, they staged a dramatic escape from the crashing starship, ultimately faking their deaths and burying the fallen clones, marking the graves with Ahsoka's own lightsaber to sell the deception. Following the rise of the Empire, Ahsoka went underground, taking the codename Fulcrum and working with Bail Organa to quietly resist Imperial oppression. Her journey would later connect her to the Ghost crew in Star Wars Rebels and lead her into confrontations with both Darth Vader and Grand Admiral Thrawn. Ahsoka's survival was more than just physical. It marked a new kind of Jedi legacy, one that didn't rely on titles but on values. As of 9 ABY, she remains active in the galaxy, still seeking to bring balance and justice wherever she can. Canon Caleb Dune / Kanan Jarrus. Caleb Dune was a Jedi Padawan serving under Master Depa Billaba during the Clone Wars. When Order 66 was issued, the two were stationed on the planet Color. As their clone troopers suddenly turned on them, Depa sacrificed herself to buy Caleb enough time to escape. Haunted by survivor's guilt, Caleb fled into the galaxy's underworld, going into hiding and adopting a new identity, Kanan Jarrus. To avoid detection, Kanan cut himself off from the Force and abandoned his Jedi training. He lived a rough life, moving from job to job, smuggler, brawler, drinker, before eventually crossing paths with a young Twi'lek pilot named Hera Syndulla. Inspired by her commitment to resisting the Empire, Kanan slowly returned to the path of the Jedi, becoming one of the first major figures in the early rebel movement. Kanan later took on a Padawan of his own, Ezra Bridger. Through Ezra, he reconnected with the Force, the Jedi legacy, and his sense of purpose. His leadership and sacrifice became pivotal to the rebellion's early victories. In 0 BBY, Kanan gave his life on Lothal, using the Force to hold back an explosion and ensure the safety of his friends. His death marked the completion of a powerful arc, from a scared Padawan fleeing the purge to a true Jedi Knight who gave everything for hope, freedom, and found his family. Canon Cal Kestis. Cal Kestis was just a Padawan aboard the Venator-class Star Destroyer Legator when Order 66 was issued. As the clones turned on their Jedi commanders, Cal's master, Jaro Tapal, fought fiercely to protect him. Tapal was mortally wounded during their escape, but not before ensuring Cal's survival. Cal fled the dying ship as it crashed onto the planet Bracca, where he lived in hiding for years, working as a scrapper and suppressing his connection to the Force. By 14 BBY, an incident forced Cal to use the Force to save a friend, exposing his identity to the Empire. This triggered the arrival of the Inquisitors, force-wielding hunters trained by Darth Vader. With help from former Jedi Seer Junda and pilot Grease Dritus, Cal embarked on a mission to rebuild the Jedi Order, ultimately deciding that the future of Force-sensitive children was too dangerous to place in anyone's hands, including his own. Years later, in Jedi Survivor, Cal remains on the run, but more determined than ever. He wages a guerrilla war against the Empire, forging alliances and defying overwhelming odds. As of that point in the timeline, Cal is still alive, but his ultimate fate remains a mystery. Cal's story highlights a central theme of post-Order 66 Jedi. Survival doesn't just mean escaping death, it means holding on to hope, identity, and purpose in a galaxy that's actively hunting you down. Canon, Grogu. Grogu, a Force-sensitive child of Yoda's species, was present inside the Jedi Temple in Coruscant during Order 66. At the height of Operation Nightfall, as Darth Vader and the 501st Legion stormed the temple, Grogu was hidden away and ultimately rescued by Jedi Master Kelleran Beck, who fought through clone troopers and escaped the temple with Grogu via a Nubian starship. What happens next remains partly unknown, but Grogu was smuggled to safety and remained in hiding throughout the reign of the Empire. During this time, he suppressed his Force abilities to avoid detection, just like many Jedi survivors. By the time of the New Republic era, Grogu had fallen into the hands of an Imperial remnant that sought to experiment on him due to his rare connection to the Force. That all changed when Din Djarin, the Mandalorian bounty hunter, rescued Grogu in 9 ABY. The bond between them grew as they evaded Imperial forces, bounty hunters, and dark side threats. Grogu briefly trained with Luke Skywalker but ultimately chose to return to Din, continuing his journey not as a Jedi but as a Mandalorian foundling. Grogu's survival isn't just miraculous, it's deeply symbolic. As one of the last known members of his mysterious species, and one of the few who remembers the Jedi Temple firsthand, Grogu carries a living link to the Jedi past, and perhaps its future. Canon, Kelleran Beck. Jedi Master Kelleran Beck earned the title Sabered Hand for his skill with dual lightsabers. During Order 66, he bravely defended Younglings at the Jedi Temple and rescued Grogu. Beck escaped Coruscant aboard a Naboo starship. His later fate is unknown, but his actions ensured Grogu's survival. Canon, Gungi. Gungi, a Wookiee Jedi youngling, survived the Jedi Purge and evaded Imperial capture into the early Imperial era. By 18 BBY, he was rescued from droid smugglers by Clone Force 99. Together, they returned him to his homeworld, Kashyyyk. His fate beyond that remains unknown, but he did live as a Jedi. Canon, Quinlan Vos. Jedi Master Quinlan Vos survived Order 66 after killing Clone Commander Faye on Kashyyyk. Though wounded, he escaped with his lover Kayleen Hentz and went into hiding. The Empire presumed him dead, but behind the scenes, Vos remained active. By 9 BBY, he was working with the Hidden Path, a secret network that smuggled Jedi and Force-sensitive younglings to safety. His name was etched into a safe house wall visited by Obi-Wan Kenobi, confirming his survival. Vos was also listed among the Inquisitors' top priority targets, but no official record of his death exists, leaving his ultimate fate a mystery and his legacy very much alive. Canon, Opa Rensisis. A Jedi Council Master during the Clone Wars, Opa Rensisis survived Order 66 by vanishing into hiding. Imperial records compiled by the Inquisitorius after their hunt for Eth Koth confirmed he was still alive. Rensisis hid extremely well, and as of current canon, has never been shown captured or killed. Canon, Coleman Kaj. A Jedi Council member near the end of the Clone Wars, Coleman Kaj survived Order 66 by disappearing into hiding. Though once presumed dead, Imperial records compiled by the Inquisitorius later confirmed he was alive. Kaj also hid extremely well, evading capture during the early years of the Empire. His ultimate fate remains unknown. Canon, Jocasta Nu. Chief Librarian of the Jedi Archives, Jocasta Nu survived Order 66 and went into hiding during the rise of the Empire. Though she wasn't a warrior by reputation, Jocasta was determined to preserve the Jedi's legacy. With her assistant, Gar, she began collecting artifacts and recording holocrons, hoping to one day train new Jedi. She knew the archives contained a holocron listing every Force-sensitive child in the galaxy and resolved to recover it before the Empire could exploit it. Sneaking back into the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, she bypassed Inquisitors and Imperial forces to retrieve it, only to come face to face with the Grand Inquisitor himself. Furious at his desecration of the archives, she attacked him and nearly died. She was saved only by Darth Vader, who had orders to bring her in alive. Even after being captured, Jocasta resisted. She sabotaged the temple, battled Vader, and even attempted to destroy the holocron rather than let it fall into Imperial hands. Though ultimately overpowered, she exposed Vader's identity to nearby troopers, forcing him to kill them and keep her secret. After a final conversation, where she warned him that the Emperor would use the children to build more Dark Warriors, Jocasta Nu accepted her fate. Vader executed her. Years later, Luke Skywalker would discover her secret cache of knowledge hidden by her loyal assistant. Though she died, her efforts helped seed the Jedi's eventual return. Canon, Luminara Unduli. A Jedi Master and respected member of the Jedi Council, Luminara Unduli was stationed on Kashyyyk during the final days of the Clone Wars. As she helped lead Republic and Wookiee forces, Order 66 was issued. Though long believed to have been killed by her clone troopers, the truth was far more disturbing. Luminara was captured alive by the Empire. She was taken to the Spire, a prison on Stygion Prime, where she was executed in secret under the watch of the Grand Inquisitor. But even in death, the Empire found a use for her. Her remains were preserved and used as bait, part of an elaborate trap to lure surviving Jedi into Imperial hands. In 5 BBY, rumors spread across the galaxy that Luminara was still alive. These were broadcast by former Senator Gal Travis, secretly working for the Empire. Jedi survivor Kanan Jarrus and the crew of the Ghost attempted to rescue her, only to discover the horrifying truth. Her mummified corpse was being used to generate a false Force signature and lure Jedi into the open. Though shaken, Jarrus survived the Inquisitor's trap. The experience reinforced his belief that he was capable of training Ezra Bridger himself and led him to spread the truth about Luminara's death. Luminara's legacy, once one of wisdom and diplomacy, was cruelly twisted by the Empire. Canon Eathcoth. Eathcoth was a Jedi Council member during the Clone Wars but left the Jedi Order shortly before Order 66, replaced by Agen Kolar. After the fall of the Jedi, Koth went into hiding, renounced his allegiance to the Order, and lived as a priest of the Church of the Gunthic Enlightenment. By 14 BBY, he had married and started a family, trying to live in peace as a husband and father. But the past caught up with him. Just minutes after the birth of his daughter, Koth was confronted by Darth Vader and 3 Inquisitors. Though he insisted he was no longer a Jedi, Vader was unmoved. Koth fought fiercely to protect his family, scoring blows against Vader and helping his wife escape, but the Inquisitors captured his newborn daughter, and Koth, distracted by the sight, was impaled by Vader. His child was taken to Coruscant for Project Harvester, the Empire's program to abduct and corrupt Force-sensitive younglings. Koth's lightsaber fell from his hand as he died, no longer a Jedi, but a father who gave his life trying to save his family. Vader later told the Emperor that eliminating Koth was necessary. As a former council member, Koth could have posed a threat. Sidious laughed at the idea that Koth became a priest, mocking him as a fool who couldn't escape his Jedi instincts. Eathcoth's fate is a haunting reminder that even those who walked away from the Jedi weren't safe from the Empire's shadow. Canon Nak Med. Nak Med left the Jedi Order before the Clone Wars, but survived the Jedi Purge. Initially believing the Empire's lies, he eventually battled the Grand Inquisitor and escaped. Med fled to Pumba, living in secrecy until the New Republic era. His legacy later inspired his great-grandson to rediscover Jedi history. Canon Seer Junda. Seer Junda was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66 but at great personal cost. During the Clone Wars, Shiano Padawan Trilla Suduri managed to escape the initial purge, rescuing several younglings and going into hiding. However, Seer was later captured by the Empire while trying to draw attention away from Trilla and the others. Imprisoned in the Fortress Inquisitorius, Seer endured brutal torture, including interrogation by Darth Vader himself. Eventually, she broke and unknowingly revealed Trilla's location. Trilla was soon captured and turned to the dark side, becoming the Inquisitor known as the Second Sister. Overwhelmed with rage, guilt, and grief, Seer tapped into the dark side during her escape, killing everyone in her path except Trilla. Horrified by what she'd become, Seer cut herself off from the Force, suppressing her powers and going into deep emotional exile. Years later, during the reign of the Empire, she returned to fight as part of a small crew resisting the Sith's rise. She became a mentor to Cal Kestis, another Order 66 survivor, and eventually began reconnecting with the Force, reclaiming her identity as a Jedi and confronting her past, including Trilla. Seer's journey is one of trauma, redemption, and legacy. Her survival didn't just keep her alive, it gave the next generation of Jedi, like Cal, a chance to rise. Canon, Eno Cordova. Jedi Master Eno Cordova survived Order 66 and quietly dedicated the rest of his life to preserving Jedi knowledge. Before the Clone Wars ended, Cordova had been a Jedi archaeologist obsessed with ancient civilizations, particularly the Zepho. His visions warned of dark times ahead, but his warnings went unheeded. When the Jedi Order fell in 19 BBY, Cordova went into hiding. He later reunited with his former apprentice, Seer Junda, and began working with the Hidden Path, a secret network smuggling Force sensitives away from Imperial control. On Jedha, he helped re-establish Jedi teachings and worked to restore lost knowledge from the Jedi archives. There, he met Cal Kestis, who had inherited Cordova's droid companion, BD-1, and was searching for the hidden world of Tanalorr. Cordova became a key part of the effort to find Tanalorr, deciphering ancient records and repairing a lost compass. But before the path could escape, the Empire attacked Jedha, led by Darth Vader. Worse, an ally named Bode Akuna betrayed them, killing Cordova in cold blood to steal the compass and protect his daughter. Cordova's funeral was held on Tanalorr, alongside Junda and Akuna, all three cremated by Merrin in a moving farewell. Though his life ended in tragedy, Cordova's legacy lived on. His research, his faith in the next generation, and the path he lit for Cal Kestis to carry forward. In the end, Cordova's mission was fulfilled. Jedi knowledge endured. Canon, Taron Malicos. Taron Malicos was a powerful Jedi Master and respected general during the Clone Wars. When Order 66 was issued, his clone troops turned on him, but Malicos struck them down and escaped in a starfighter. He survived the Jedi Purge, but his ship crash-landed on the dark side-infused world of Dathomir. Alone, wounded, and vulnerable, Malicos was captured by the Night Brothers. Over time, the planet's dark energy corrupted him. He turned to the dark side, murdered the Night Brothers' leader Viscus, and took control of the tribe through sheer power and fear. Malicos delved into forbidden Zepho tombs, drawn to their ancient power, and eventually allied himself with Merrin, one of the last surviving Night Sisters. He manipulated her into believing the Jedi were responsible for her people's massacre during the Clone Wars. Malicos tried to fuse Night Sister magic with the Force, seeking ultimate power. His rule was eventually challenged by Jedi survivor Cal Kestis, who had come to Dathomir in search of knowledge. After a fierce duel, Malicos was defeated with Merrin's help, who realized his deception and turned against him. Canon, Ferren Barr. Ferren Barr was a Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66 and later emerged as a rogue operator determined to ignite galactic rebellion. Gifted with foresight, Barr saw the rise of the Empire as inevitable, but also saw its eventual downfall. He recruited Force-sensitive acolytes, including a young woman named Verla, and made his way to Mon Cala, where he served as an advisor to King Li Char. Knowing the Empire planned to subjugate Mon Cala, Barr sabotaged diplomatic efforts by assassinating Imperial Ambassador Telvar, deliberately sparking a war to inspire resistance. When Vader and the Inquisitors came to kill him, Barr revealed to his clone pursuers that the Inquisitors were fallen Jedi. Exploiting their residual programming, he used the Force to compel the clones to re-execute Order 66, against the Inquisitors themselves. Bar and Verla escaped, but he knew his time was short. Sending Verla away to seek out surviving Jedi like Yoda or Kenobi, Bar made a final stand. Confronting Darth Vader in Mon Cala's Royal Command bunker, he confessed to his role in sparking the conflict and expressed confidence that his actions would eventually bring down the Sith. He was killed in the duel, but not before assuring King Li Cha that the Mon Calamari's sacrifice would inspire future generations. Canon, Kirak Infala. One of the most unique survivors of Order 66, Kirak Infala escaped the Purge not through luck, but isolation. A Jedi warrior active since the High Republic era, Infala took the Barash Vow, a sacred Jedi commitment of total withdrawal from Order affairs. By the time the Clone Wars ended, he was meditating in solitude on the river moon Al-Dalim, focused solely on training and reflection. When Order 66 struck in 19 BBY, Kirak felt the deaths of his fellow Jedi through the Force, but remained uninvolved, as his vow forbade intervention. However, his solitude made him a target. Darth Vader, newly risen and ordered to bleed a Jedi's Kyber crystal, hunted Kirak as his first kill. What followed was an epic duel across mountain peaks, traps, and flooded cities. Kirak nearly killed Vader, pushing him to the brink of destruction. But Vader, relentless and resourceful, rebuilt himself from the wreckage and returned for revenge. Their final confrontation took place atop a dam in Umbala City. Infala, trying to protect civilians from Vader's wrath, was fatally distracted. Vader seized his lightsaber, executed him, and used the Kyber crystal to forge his first red blade. Though he died, Kirak Infala didn't go quietly. His legacy lived on through the lives he saved and the weapon that would become infamous in Vader's hand. Canon, the Grand Inquisitor. Before he became one of the most feared Jedi hunters in the galaxy, the Grand Inquisitor was once a Jedi Knight and a temple guard stationed at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Disillusioned with the Order, he grew resentful, particularly toward Jocasta Nu, who denied him access to the deeper, more guarded knowledge within the Jedi archives. That frustration eventually pushed him toward the dark side. Though he was still a Jedi at the time of Order 66, the Padawan survived the Purge and was handpicked by Darth Sidious to lead the Inquisitorius, a group of fallen Jedi tasked with hunting down their former comrades. In return, the Inquisitor was promised access to all the secrets he had once been denied. He served directly under Darth Vader, whom he initially clashed with, but eventually came to respect as his master. One of his earliest missions involved attempting to kill Jocasta Nu herself when she broke into the Jedi Temple to recover a holocron. Though he bested her in combat, Vader stopped him from killing her, following the Emperor's more secretive plans. Throughout his tenure, the Grand Inquisitor trained and led the Inquisitors, ruthlessly hunting surviving Jedi. He even helped induct new members like Iskat Akaris, guiding them to abandon their past and embrace the dark side. The Grand Inquisitor's fall is a haunting twist on the Jedi Survivor story. He didn't just live through Order 66, he became the very weapon used to finish the job. Canon, Second Sister. Trila Suduri, or the Second Sister, was a Jedi Padawan who survived the initial wave of Order 66 alongside her master, Seer Junda, and a group of younglings. The pair went into hiding at the dawn of the Empire but were eventually discovered. Seer left to lead Imperial forces away, hoping to protect Trilla and the children. She was captured and tortured at the Fortress Inquisitorius, where she eventually broke, revealing the location of her Padawan. Trilla was soon captured and subjected to the same horrors, but for her, the pain of betrayal cut even deeper than the Empire's cruelty. That wound, combined with physical and emotional torment, led her to fall to the dark side. She became the Second Sister, one of the most elite Inquisitors under Darth Vader's command. Wielding a customized double-bladed spinning lightsaber, Trilla became a ruthless Jedi hunter. But deep down, traces of the Padawan she once was still lingered, buried beneath anger, resentment, and grief. She confronted her former master again years later, blaming her for her fall and loss of identity. Her story culminated in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, where she hunted Cal Kestis, another Order 66 survivor. Ultimately, when she began to question her path, she was struck down by Darth Vader, a harsh reminder that redemption comes at a cost under the Empire. Canon, third sister. Reva Savanda was one of the few younglings to survive the horrors of Order 66 during Anakin Skywalker's assaults on the Jedi Temple. Trained under Jedi Master Minas Velti, Reva and her peers were cut down by the clones and then by Anakin himself, now Darth Vader. Though Reva was impaled, she survived by playing dead beneath the bodies of her fellow initiates. Scarred by the experience, Reva turned to the dark side. She joined the Inquisitors and rose through the ranks as the third sister, all while secretly plotting to get close to Vader and avenge the fallen younglings. Her outward loyalty masked a deep inner conflict, driven by survivors' guilt and hatred. By 9 BBY, Reva orchestrated a galaxy-spanning pursuit of Obi-Wan Kenobi, hoping to lure Vader out. Her obsession and ambition led her to betray the Grand Inquisitor, kidnap Leia Organa, and rise to the position of Grand Inquisitor, briefly. Eventually, Reva attempted to assassinate Vader on Jabim, but was easily defeated. Though left for dead, she survived once again and learned of Luke Skywalker's existence. Her final act was to confront the boy, but ultimately, she chose mercy. Reva broke her cycle of violence and laid down her weapon, rejecting the dark side. Canon, fourth sister. The fourth sister, once a Jedi Knight named Lyn Rakish, was a survivor of Order 66 who fell to the dark side and joined the Inquisitors. Her early Inquisitors career involved recruiting others, including former Jedi Barriss Offee, who joined after a brutal trial but later rejected the Empire's cruelty. Like many Inquisitors, the fourth sister took part in the hunt for Obi-Wan Kenobi, working alongside the Grand Inquisitor and fifth brother. She followed orders with precision, helping lead the investigation on Daiyu and later deploying Imperial forces to Mapuzo. She showed little tolerance for disobedience, but was ultimately overshadowed by Reva, whose ambition disrupted their ranks. Years later, the fourth sister crossed paths with Barriss Offee once again. Offee was protecting a Force-sensitive child on an ice planet. During their encounter, Barriss offered her former comrade a chance at redemption. The fourth sister hesitated, but in a moment of confusion and fear, she accidentally impaled Offee. With Offee's dying breath, she forgave her and urged her to abandon the Empire. Stricken with guilt, the fourth sister, now Rakish again, left her Inquisitor weapon behind and carried Offee's body out of the caves. Her ultimate fate remains a mystery, though her Inquisitor armor would later be found in the possession of rebel operative Lena Graff, who impersonated her on a mission to Fortress Vader. Canon, fifth brother. The fifth brother was once a Jedi raised in the temple on Coruscant, taken from his homeworld of Artemisium as a Force-sensitive child. Like many others, he was promised a life of peace and service, but in time, he became disillusioned with the Jedi Order, convinced they served corrupt politicians and failed the galaxy. When Order 66 was initiated in 19 BBY, he didn't flee or resist. Instead, he embraced the rise of the Empire and willingly joined the Inquisitors, a dark-side organization tasked with hunting Jedi survivors. Under Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor, the fifth brother was trained to abandon mercy and embrace fear, even losing his right hand in a brutal training session with Vader. He was present during high-profile missions, including the operation to recover Jedi Master Eth Koth's Force-sensitive daughter. While Koth tried to protect his family, the fifth brother aided in capturing the child for Project Harvester, a dark program to indoctrinate Force-sensitive children into the Empire. Throughout his career, the fifth brother displayed unwavering loyalty to Vader, contrasting sharply with the more unstable Inquisitors like the third sister. He often clashed with them, especially when ambition clouded duty. By the time of the Kenobi series, he was one of the lead Inquisitors, hunting the legendary Jedi Master across the galaxy. Though quiet and stoic, his presence was always imposing, proof that even once noble Jedi could become enforcers of tyranny. Canon, sixth brother. The sixth brother, formerly known as Bilvalin, was once a Jedi, though little is known about his time in the Order. Like many disillusioned or captured Jedi after the fall of the Republic, He was twisted by the dark side and repurposed by the Empire into a Jedi hunter within the Inquisitors. Trained under the Grand Inquisitor and later Darth Vader, the sixth brother was taught to abandon Jedi ideals like restraint and compassion. During a brutal sparring session with Vader, he learned firsthand how little value the Sith Lord placed on his agents. Losing his left arm to a lightsaber strike meant as a lesson in loss. Like the rest of the Inquisitors, his mission was simple: eradicate all surviving Jedi. Armed with a double-bladed spinning lightsaber and the rage of a fallen Jedi, the sixth brother became a ruthless tracker of his former comrades. His most famous encounter came years later when he hunted Ahsoka Tano on the planet Rada. But unlike many of his peers, the sixth brother's downfall came not at the hands of a Jedi Master, but a former Padawan. Ahsoka defeated him using only one of his own crystals, harvested from his saber after she bested him in combat. His death, though quiet compared to others, was symbolic. A Jedi hunter undone by the very resolve of someone the Order had once left behind. Canon, Seventh Sister. The Seventh Sister was once a Mirrorland Jedi Master, trained in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and even taught by Grandmaster Yoda himself. During her time in the Order, she trained alongside notable Jedi such as Aayla Secura, showing that she was among the more skilled Force wielders of her generation. She survived Order 66, but like many others, her path darkened shortly after. Whether captured, tortured, or broken by the Empire, the former Jedi was reconditioned into Inquisitor, reborn as the Seventh Sister. Alongside the other Inquisitors, she was retrained in the dark side under Darth Vader's brutal oversight. The Seventh Sister became a cunning and manipulative hunter, known for her use of ID-9 Seeker droids, small, spider-like drones used to track and subdue Jedi fugitives. Ironically, the inspiration for her droid companions came from a spiteful rivalry with fellow Inquisitor Iskat Akaris. During a sparring match, Akaris injured the Seventh Sister by twisting her hand with the Force. In return, the Seventh Sister sent a swarm of droids to attack Akaris in her quarters, nearly killing her. By the time of the Age of the Empire, she was fully immersed in her new role, calculating, cruel, and competitive even among her fellow Inquisitors. Though once a Jedi devoted to peace and balance, the Seventh Sister became a symbol of how far the Order's survivors could really fall. Canon, Eighth Brother. Once a Jedi, the individual who would become the Eighth Brother was swept into darkness following the execution of Order 66. He joined the Inquisitors and was retrained under Darth Vader. He was known among the Inquisitors for his homicidal nature, always ready for a fight and never needing much of an excuse to kill. During sparring sessions at the Inquisitors HQ, he stood out for his violent tendencies and lethal efficiency. Eventually, in 14 BBY, he joined the celebration after Koth's death, a grim reminder of how far he'd fallen from his Jedi roots. But the Eighth Brother's most fateful mission came in 3 BBY when he was dispatched to Malachor to hunt a shadowy target, none other than Maul, the former Sith apprentice. While on Malachor, he crossed paths with Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, and Ahsoka Tano, engaging in a chaotic, multi-sided conflict involving Maul himself. During the clash, the Eighth Brother's lightsaber was damaged, and when he tried to escape using its spinning function as a glider, the weapon failed mid-flight. He plummeted to his death, yet another Inquisitor destroyed by the very darkness he chose to embrace. Canon, Ninth Sister. Masana Tide, a Dowutan Jedi from the planet Dowut, survived the horrors of Order 66, but was captured by the Empire and tortured until she broke. Reborn as the fearsome Ninth Sister, she trained alongside other fallen Jedi at the Inquisitors headquarters on Coruscant and endured Vader's brutal teaching methods. During one training session, Vader gouged out her left eye, his twisted way of teaching the lesson of loss. Her loyalty, however, remained questionable. On a mission to Cabiria, she accompanied Vader to investigate a potential Jedi sighting. When Vader ended up in a fierce battle with the bounty hunter family, the Chass, he requested her lightsaber mid-fight. She ignored the call, later claiming the Ion Blast had disabled her comm. The episode didn't earn her Vader's trust, to say the least. He accused her of plotting against him and nearly killed her. She would later face Jedi survivor Cal Kestis on Kashyyyk, but that's a confrontation for another day. Canon, 10th Brother. Proset Dibbs was once a Jedi Master, blind but highly intuitive in the Force. His downfall began during the Clone Wars on the planet Hisrich, where he questioned the Jedi Council's integrity. Believing the Jedi had strayed from their values and become pawns of corrupt politicians, Dibs turned on Mace Windu, accusing him of hypocrisy and betrayal. The two dueled, with Windu ultimately defeating and arresting Dibs, recommending leniency in hopes the Council could rehabilitate him. But redemption never came. When Order 66 was executed, Dibs survived, but the fall of the Jedi broke his remaining faith. He was captured, tortured, and twisted by the Empire, eventually emerging as the 10th brother, a ruthless Inquisitor in service to Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor. The 10th brother hunted Jedi survivors across the galaxy, and during a mission to Mon Cala, he assisted in the invasion of Dark City, pursuing Padawan Ferren Barr, a survivor-inspiring rebellion. But Barr turned the tables, manipulating clone purge troopers with a mind trick to re-trigger Order 66 against the Inquisitors. Caught in the chaos, the 10th brother was shot in the chest and killed by the very troopers meant to serve him. Years later, Luke Skywalker would uncover his story and include him in the secrets of the Jedi. Canon, 11th brother. The 11th brother was a humanoid Force-sensitive and dark side agent of the Inquisitors, the Empire's secret order of fallen Jedi turned Jedi hunters. Like many of his peers, he once served the Jedi Order but fell after Order 66, ultimately pledging his allegiance to Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine. Sometime after 19 BBY, the 11th brother was seen at Fortress Inquisitorius on Nur, kneeling alongside other Inquisitors as they were formally placed under Vader's command. In 18 BBY or later, he received intel that Ahsoka Tano was hiding in a rural village. Upon arriving and failing to find her, he responded with brutal efficiency. He slaughtered the entire village, save for the informant and an elder whom he publicly tormented while the town burned. When Ahsoka returned, the 11th brother recognized her and attempted to claim what he believed would be a glorious victory. But he severely underestimated her. In a swift duel, Ahsoka disarmed him, deactivated his lightsaber, and decapitated him, ending his life in seconds. Canon, 13th sister. The 13th sister, born Iskat Akaris, was a Force-sensitive Picorian female and a former Jedi Knight who became one of the most complex and tragic figures within the Inquisitorius. A survivor of Order 66, Iskat didn't just fall to the dark side, she chose it, believing the Jedi had never truly accepted her. Haunted by a lifetime of feeling like an outsider in the Jedi Order, marked by a traumatic column incident as a youngling, the death of her master at Geonosis, and the denial of answers about her lineage, Iskat's disillusionment only deepened during the Clone Wars. When the Jedi Temple fell and the Empire rose, she was captured and offered a new path under Darth Vader's Inquisitorius. She accepted, eventually becoming the 13th sister. Iskat was powerful, merciless, and driven. She hunted Jedi, killed former allies, and even retrieved the infant daughter of Eeth Koth for Project Harvester. A moment where she showed cruelty cloaked as psychological warfare, letting the child's mother believe she escaped, only to rip the baby from her arms at the last moment. But Iskat's ambitions clashed with Vader's ruthlessness. After he discovered her romantic attachment to fellow Inquisitor Tualon Yaluna, he tried to eliminate them both. The two briefly escaped, fought valiantly, and nearly killed Vader during a chase across Coruscant, but in the end, Vader used the Force to impel them with each other's lightsabers, killing them both. Canon, Tualon Yaluna. Tualon Yaluna was a black-skinned Twi'lek Jedi Knight from Ryloth who survived Order 66 only to become an Inquisitor. Once a loyal Jedi, Tualon was close friends with fellow Jedi Iskat Akaris, and over the course of the Clone Wars, their bond deepened, ultimately evolving into a secret romance when they were both recruited into the Inquisitorius. After surviving the Jedi Purge, Yaluna was captured, tortured, and broken. His hatred for Iskat, who had left him behind during Order 66, twisted into his reason for joining the dark side. But even that hate turned back to love, and the two began a forbidden relationship within the Inquisitorius. Tualon was ruthless and efficient in his role, helping Darth Vader hunt down Jedi survivors, including aiding in the capture of Eeth Koth's infant daughter. But when Vader discovered the bond, he saw it as a weakness. He ignited his lightsaber without warning and attacked them both. What followed was a high-speed, force-fueled chase throughout Coruscant as the two Inquisitors tried to escape Vader, but ultimately ended up succumbing to him. Their deaths caused such public destruction that Emperor Palpatine relocated the Inquisitorius headquarters to Fortress Inquisitorius on Ner, fearing political fallout. Canon, Nari. Nari was one of the few surviving Jedi after Order 66, and even a decade later, he still believed in the Jedi Code. By 9 BBY, he was hiding on Tatooine, helping locals and keeping his lightsaber close. When rumors spread about a Jedi protecting his people in Mos Eisley, the Inquisitors came hunting, specifically the Grand Inquisitor, Fifth Brother, and ruthless Third Sister. When the Third Sister threw a knife at a cantina owner to bait him out, Nari revealed himself by using the Force to stop the blade midair, saving the man. He barely escaped with his life, and soon after sought out Obi-Wan Kenobi, hoping the legendary Jedi Master would rise to lead again. But instead of help, Nari was met with disillusionment. Kenobi told him to bury his lightsaber and hide, claiming the Jedi had lost. Nari was stunned, his hope shattered by the very man he looked up to. Sometime after, Nari was captured and executed by the Inquisitors. His body was hung in Anchorhead as a warning to others. When Kenobi saw it, he looked on with guilt and sorrow, one more reminder of the cost of survival. Canon, Dagan Gera. Dagan Gera was a Jedi Knight from the High Republic era, once hailed as one of the Order's finest warriors and explorers. He discovered the hidden world of Tanalorr, a paradise located beyond the dangerous Kobo Abyss, and dreamed of building a new Jedi sanctuary there. But when the Nihil invaded, the Jedi Council chose to abandon Tanalorr rather than fight. That decision shattered Gera's faith. He turned on the Order, killed fellow Jedi, and fell to the dark side. In a confrontation with his friend and fellow Jedi Centauri Kree, Gera lost his right arm and was placed in stasis for nearly 2 centuries. When awakened during the reign of the Galactic Empire, he discovered the Jedi were gone and seized the moment to reclaim Tanalorr. Consumed by his obsession, Gera bled his yellow kyber crystal red and formed an alliance with the Bedlam Raiders, transforming them into a personal army. He battled Cal Kestis multiple times, wielding his split saber and terrifying Force illusions, even conjuring a phantom arm. Though powerful and skilled, his obsession blinded him. In a final duel, Cal exploited Gera's memories of Kree, defeating him with the help of Bode Akuna. Gera's story is one of pride turned to obsession, a cautionary tale of how even the greatest Jedi can fall when personal vision outweighs the will of the Order. His defeat paved the way for Cal to pursue a new hope for the Jedi on the very world Gera once tried to claim for himself. Canon, Bode Akuna. Bode Akuna was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66 by vanishing into the shadows, leveraging his background in Republic intelligence to stay off the Empire's radar. After the fall of the Jedi, Bode started a family, only for the Inquisitors to find him. His wife died, saving him and their daughter Kata. To protect his child, Bode struck a deal with the Empire, becoming a deep cover agent reporting to the ISB, all while hiding his Force sensitivity. He later infiltrated Cal Kestis' crew, posing as a friend and fellow survivor. As the journey to the lost Jedi world of Tanalorr unfolded, Bode saw it not as a new hope for the Jedi, but as a private refuge for his daughter. Though he helped Cal in battles against the Empire and the Dark Jedi Dagan Gera, Bode ultimately betrayed the Mantis crew, killed Jedi Master Eno Cordova, and exposed Seer Junda's location, leading to her death at the hands of Darth Vader. In the final duel on Tanalorr, Bode faced Cal and Merrin. Though powerful with the Force and armed with Gera's red lightsaber, he was defeated and killed, leaving his daughter Kata in Cal's care. Canon, Zubain, Ankonori, Kandra, Mususil, and Nuj. In the aftermath of Order 66, 4 Jedi, Zubain, Ankonori, Mususil, Kandra, and Nuj sought refuge in a forgotten Jedi shrine on the planet Anoat. This small band of survivors attempted to stay hidden from the Empire, but their sanctuary was eventually discovered by the Inquisitors. Mususil chose to stay behind on Anoat, sacrificing herself to buy time for the others to flee. Her stand allowed Ankonori, Kandra, and Nuj to escape, but it came at the cost of her life. Ankonori led the Empire's pursuers to Matto, acting as a diversion while Kandra and Nuj slipped away. There, Ankonori confronted the Inquisitor alone and fell. The remaining survivors made their way to Burnin Kon, living off scraps and evading capture in the shadows. But their time eventually ran out. The Inquisitor tracked them to a chromium mine near Wick Ridge, where both Kandra and Nuj were killed in a final, desperate battle. Before his death, Nuj recorded a message of hope. "If we do not stop the Inquisitor, you will. If we do not stop the Empire, you will." Their lightsabers and possessions were locked away in an Imperial vault on Nar Hyper, but their story, while nearly erased, endures as a tragic reminder of the Jedi who kept fighting, even when the galaxy had forgotten them. Canon: Mil Alibeth and Vivert Stag. Mil Alibeth and Vivert Stag were Jedi initiates during the early days of the Clone Wars. Both were scheduled to undergo the Gathering on Ilum, a rite of passage where younglings build their lightsabers. But while most of the clan, including the eager and excitable Vivert, welcomed the challenge, Mil was overwhelmed. Her unique connection to the Force made her deeply empathetic, so much so that violence and suffering caused her physical pain and nausea. Instead of joining the others on Ilum, Mil was reassigned and sent on a humanitarian mission with Anakin Skywalker. Though initially on the verge of severing her connection to the Force, Mil slowly discovered that her sensitivity could be a gift, not a curse. With Anakin's support, she found new purpose as a healer and spiritual guide under Master Rig Nema, choosing not to pursue the path of a Jedi Knight. Somehow, both Mil and Vivert survived Order 66. Decades later, during the era of the First Order, the two resurfaced as bounty hunters. Alongside Muar Jarunda, they kept a running tally of bounties collected, suggesting a more light-hearted approach to their new profession. Whether this was truly their path or merely a cover remains uncertain, but writer Mike Chen hinted that their bounty hunter identities might be a front to help people quietly across the galaxy. Canon: Baylan Skoll. Baylan Skoll was a Jedi Knight who survived the devastation of Order 66, trading the ideals of a Jedi for a mysterious, mercenary path. A former Jedi during the Clone Wars and contemporary of Anakin Skywalker, Skoll lived into the New Republic era where his past haunted him and his ambitions grew beyond the ruins of the Order. In Ahsoka, set in 9 ABY, Skoll emerged from the shadows with his apprentice, Shin Hati, aiding Morgan Elspeth in her mission to retrieve Grand Admiral Thrawn from exile. But while Elspeth sought Thrawn's return, Skoll had his eyes on something else: power, ancient, legendary, and beyond anything the Jedi or Sith ever imagined. Skoll confronted Ahsoka Tano on Seatos in a fierce duel, defeating her and manipulating Sabine Wren to willingly join his cause. His ideology was clear. The Jedi had failed, galaxy was trapped in a cycle of destruction, and something new had to rise. On Peridea, after aiding Thrawn's return, he abandoned both Elspeth and Shin to seek a deeper purpose tied to the mythic Mortis gods, the Father, the Son, and the Daughter. Baylan Skoll's path wasn't one of vengeance or madness, but one of vision, a man disillusioned with the Jedi, the Empire, and the endless wars in between. His final scene finds him standing atop a monument to the Mortis gods, hinting at a greater mystery, and perhaps a dangerous future for the Force itself. Legends Jedi Master, Jyn Altus. Jyn Altus was no ordinary Jedi Master. Long before the Clone Wars erupted, he had already split ideologically from the Jedi High Council, forming his own sect known as the Altisian Jedi. Altus believed in training Force sensitives of any age, taking on multiple Padawans, and, most controversially, embracing attachment and marriage. To the Council, he was a heretic. To his followers, he was a visionary. Operating from a mobile academy ship hidden in the clouds of Bespin, Altus taught unorthodox Force techniques, including methods to preserve consciousness after death, teachings that would prove pivotal for his student, Callista Masana. Despite their differences with the Order, Altus and his Jedi aided the Republic during the Clone Wars. He even fought alongside Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker during a mission to rescue a Republic agent. Altus, aware of Skywalker's secret marriage, offered him refuge if the Council ever turned on him, an offer that hinted at Altus's deep compassion and independence. When Order 66 was issued, most of the Altisian Jedi survived. Because they operated apart from the Central Jedi Order and rarely worked with clone troopers, they weren't targeted in the same way. Altus led the survivors into hiding, continuing to protect refugees and connect with other Jedi who had outlasted the Purge. Though Jyn Altus didn't live to see the rise of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order, his legacy endured. His teachings lived on through Callista Masana and others who embraced a more flexible, human approach to the Force. Legends Jedi Master Akinos. Jedi Master Akinos wasn't just a survivor of Order 66, he was one of the most unorthodox Jedi in galactic history. A Sunesi from Monor II, Akinos believed that droids were more than just machines. He believed they were sentient and capable of understanding the Force. Naturally, the Jedi High Council didn't agree. Branded a heretic, he was cast out, but that exile may have saved his life. Finding sanctuary among the Altician Jedi, Akinos continued his controversial teachings aboard Jyn Altus's mobile academy. But his greatest legacy was the creation of the Iron Knights, Force-sensitive shards who piloted massive droid bodies. To Akinos, these beings were Jedi, and he trained them accordingly. Though rejected by the mainstream order, the Iron Knights fought alongside Mace Windu during the Arcanian Revolution and later served in the Clone Wars. Akinos later allied with Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order, offering his wisdom and his Iron Knights in the battles against dark-side cults and eventually the Yuuzhan Vong. He died during the Vong War, becoming one with the Force after nearly a century of serving the galaxy. Legends Ood Bnar. Ood Bnar wasn't just a Jedi Master, he was a living legend. A member of the Neti species, Ood was a tree-like being with an immense lifespan and a mind just as deep-rooted in Jedi lore as his limbs were in Ossus soil. Centuries before the rise of the Empire, he served the Order as a Jedi scholar, mastering knowledge of both the light and dark sides of the Force, while resisting the temptations that corrupted so many others. When the Great Sith War came to Ossus, Bnar made a fateful choice. To protect a cache of ancient Jedi lightsabers from Exar Kun, he transformed, literally, into a tree, encasing the weapons in his roots and ending his life as a sentient being, or so the galaxy thought. Ood survived for 4,000 years in that form. Through the rise of the Empire, the fall of the Jedi and the Great Jedi Purge, he endured, dormant but alive. He wouldn't awaken until 10 ABY, when Luke Skywalker arrived on Ossus. In his final act, Ood Bnar reawakened to protect a Jedi from a dark side warrior and perished doing so, becoming one with the Force. Ood didn't just survive Order 66, he predated it by millennia. And in the end, he fulfilled his duty, safeguarding Jedi knowledge until a new hope arrived. Legends Jedi Master, Lady Karen. Karen was a Jedi of the old ways, a survivor of Order 66 who faded into myth as quietly as she lived. After the fall of the Jedi Order, she vanished into the Outer Rim, re-emerging not as a warrior, but as a storyteller beneath the tucker trees of an unnamed village. She became beloved by the local children, spinning tales of heroism and hope, all while hiding the truth of her own past. But Karen's Jedi instincts never dulled. When she sensed the Force in a local girl named Anna Tarthis, she took her on as a secret apprentice. For 3 years, Karen trained Anna in meditation, healing, and farsight, not in combat, but in the deeper disciplines of the Force. Her lessons came not from blasters or battles, but through tending gardens and seeking inner peace. And then, just as quietly as she had entered Anna's life, Karen left, believing she'd taught all she could. Though obscure in the grand tapestry of Jedi history, Karen is a powerful example of the many quiet survivors who kept the light alive through compassion, not conflict. Legends Jedi Master Thracia Cholim. Thracia Cholim was a Jedi Master known as much for her brilliance and healing as for her defiance of Jedi orthodoxy. Though rarely seen at the Jedi Temple, her reputation echoed through its halls. She trained many Padawans, most notably the enigmatic Fosh Jedi Fagera, and was deeply respected by even the High Council, despite her unorthodox views. Liam believed the Jedi needed to connect more directly with everyday life. She often left the core worlds, living among the common people in the Outer Rim. She even married multiple times and had children, openly defying the Jedi Code's ban on attachment, yet never stripped of her rank. Shortly before the Clone Wars, she played a pivotal role in encouraging Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker's mission to Zonama Sikot, where Vegeri had vanished. Upon their return, with no word from Vegera and Anakin emotionally shaken, Liam offered him rare emotional guidance and healing. Then, without explanation, Thracia Cholim quietly left the Jedi Order. Though she was never labeled one of the Lost 20, her departure was a rare act of independence by a Jedi Master who had always walked her own path. Because she left before Order 66, she avoided the Purge entirely. Legends Jedi Master Minos Falconer. Jedi Master Minos Falconer was a sentinel trained at the Almas Academy in the Kularan system, known for his investigative prowess and quiet wisdom. Before the Clone Wars, he led archaeological expeditions into the ancient Sith fortress of Darth Revan on Almas, uncovering chilling artifacts like krayt dragon skeletons and black marble slabs chronicling the Sith lineage from Naga Sadow to Revan himself. When the Clone Wars erupted, Falconer stayed stationed at Almas, continuing his duties despite rising tensions with the Tharian military presence in the system. But in the final year of the war, everything changed. The Dark Jedi, Garth Ezar, launched an orbital bombardment that obliterated the Academy. Falconer survived, but barely. In the chaos that followed, Order 66 was issued. Falconer, now a Jedi Master, witnessed the Republic fall and the Empire rise. He saw through Palpatine's lies and knew that confronting Darth Sidious or Vader head-on would mean annihilation. Instead, Falconer made a vow to find what remained of the Jedi in the Kularan system and lead them into hiding, far from the Empire's reach. His datapad entries show a man burdened by grief but committed to survival and the quiet preservation of Jedi knowledge. Whether he lived to see the Jedi rise again is unknown, but he survived the purge, and that alone speaks volumes. Legends Jedi Master Kina Ha. Kina Ha was no ordinary Jedi, nor was she a typical Kaminoan. Genetically altered to survive hyperspace travel, she was once destined for deep space missions that never came. Isolated and force-sensitive in a society that viewed such traits as dangerous imperfections, Ha fled Kamino and eventually found training under the Trandoshan Jedi Master Kras Dok. She became a Jedi Guardian and, in time, a Master, though one who kept her distance from the High Council, only meeting with them a handful of times over several centuries. Long before the Clone Wars, Ha foresaw an ominous vision: dark side soldiers rising from Kamino. Though she found no immediate danger, she chose self-exile in the deep ocean ruins of Kamino, watching holovids and waiting. When Order 66 was executed, Ha emerged from hiding and was rescued by a smuggler. Alongside Padawan Talisabeth Enwandung Esterhazy, she took refuge on Mandalore with Kal Skarada's clan, despite his hatred for both Jedi and Kaminoans. Ha permitted Mandalorian scientists to study her genetics to help slow the clones' accelerated aging. She later connected with the Altician Jedi and joined their secret community. By the time of the Empire's rise, Kina Ha had already lived over 3,000 years. Regal, ancient, and surprisingly witty, she defied both Kaminoan norms and Jedi orthodoxy and outlasted nearly all of them. Legends Jedi Master Ikrit. Ikrit was a Kushiban Jedi Master, small, furry, and fierce in his wisdom. A former Padawan of Yoda himself, Ikrit was renowned for not lightsaber prowess, but for his deep spiritual connection to the Force. Long before the rise of the Empire, Ikrit discovered a Massassi temple on Yavin 4 that imprisoned the souls of children within a cursed artifact known as the Golden Globe. Unable to break the spell, he entered a Force hibernation, choosing to sleep until someone who could came. By doing so, Ikrit unintentionally skipped over centuries of galactic conflict, including the Clone Wars, the fall of the Jedi, and yes, Order 66. While Jedi across the galaxy were hunted down and destroyed, Ikrit napped. He awakened during the New Republic era over 400 years later, when young Jedi trainees Anakin Solo and Tahiri Vela arrived at the Jedi Praexium on Yavin 4. With their help, the Massassi souls were freed, and Ikrit resumed life as a Jedi Master, mentoring Anakin and Tahiri. Ikrit ultimately died during the Yuuzhan Vong War, sacrificing himself to ensure the escape of his students. He may not have been a warrior, but his wisdom, patience, and love for the Jedi way made him one of the most unique survivors of Order 66, because sometimes, surviving is just a matter of perfect timing. Legends Jedi Master Daros Jet. Master Daros Jet was a battle-hardened Jedi sentinel and weapons expert whose path through the Clone Wars was marked by personal loss, moral ambiguity, and an end shrouded in mystery. During the war, Jet served as both a frontline general and an instructor at the Almas Academy, a praexium known for its independence and unconventional views. He returned there to enforce the Jedi Council's recall order, but many faculty refused. Despite their defiance, Jet respected their stance, until the Almas Academy was destroyed in a separatist attack while he was away. Worse still, Jet had already been shaken after a brutal encounter with Asajj Ventress in which he briefly fell to the dark side in a desperate act of survival. Though he survived, the guilt haunted him. Later, during the planetary bombardment of Chromus, Jet ordered an attack that killed over 1 billion beings to prevent the escape of a superweapon, an act that would normally bring charges, but which earned him strange praise from Chancellor Palpatine instead. Then came Order 66. Jet learnt of the betrayal moments before ARC Trooper Marek attempted to kill him. After dispatching the clone traitors, he made a bold move. Using his flagship Maelstrom, he engaged the CIS superweapon Shadowblade and dragged both ships into a time vortex in the Kularan system. Neither vessel was ever seen again. Legends Jedi Master Das Janir. One of the most compelling Jedi to survive Order 66, Das Janir's journey is unlike almost any other in the galaxy. When the clones turned on him on New Plimto, Janir managed to escape execution, but not the cost of war. Stranded behind enemy lines, he allied with his former foes, the Nosorians, fighting alongside them in a doomed rebellion against the new empire. He watched friends die, civilians enslaved, and entire cultures crushed, until he realized that being a Jedi in the new galaxy meant more than just surviving. Janir abandoned the traditional Jedi path and walked a darker line, taking up blasters, deceiving slavers, and even committing cold-blooded executions in the name of justice. He freed captives on Orvax 4, dismantled a criminal empire on Telarath, and walked away from the Jedi Code in pursuit of a more practical morality. But at every turn, he wrestled with guilt, wondering how much of his soul he could trade before becoming the very thing he opposed. Ultimately, Janir became a symbol of post-war Jedi resilience, not because he stayed true to the code, but because he chose to protect others no matter the cost. When the time came to face the Empire directly, he even prepared to sacrifice himself to strike at Darth Vader. Though his ultimate fate remains open-ended, Das Janir's story reminds us that sometimes balance in the Force comes not from light or dark, but from standing in the storm and choosing to protect others anyway. Legends Jedi Master Jarek. Jarek survived Order 66 because he was on a long-term mission in the unknown regions, searching for ancient Jedi and Sith artifacts. As a Miraluka Jedi Master and a scholar of Jedi history, he operated far from Republic space during the final days of the Clone Wars. When the Jedi Purge began, he didn't return to Coruscant and was presumed dead. At some point after the rise of the Empire, Jarek encountered agents of the Inquisitors. Rather than resist, he willingly turned to the dark side, abandoning the Jedi Code and joining the Empire as a High Inquisitor. His knowledge of the Sith and ancient Force lore made him a valuable asset, and he was allowed significant freedom to pursue his own studies in exchange for loyalty. Jarek later aligned with the Pentastar alignment after Palpatine's death. Obsessed with the Valley of the Jedi on Ruusan, believed to contain the essence of thousands of Jedi and Sith trapped in a Force nexus, he eventually found it. With the aid of his 6 Dark Jedi followers, Jarek absorbed its power, temporarily elevating his abilities far beyond most Force users. Despite this, he was ultimately killed by Kyle Katarn, who had recently embraced his Jedi heritage. Katarn's actions fulfilled an ancient prophecy, and the souls trapped in the valley were finally released. Jarek's death ended one of the last major threats posed by a surviving darkside-turned Jedi from the Clone Wars era. Legends Jedi Master Ram Koda. Ram Koda didn't survive Order 66 by luck. He avoided it by never trusting the clone army in the first place. From the beginning of the Clone Wars, Koda refused to command clones and instead built his own militia of loyal, non-clone fighters. So when the order came down to kill the Jedi, Koda's troops didn't turn on him. After the Purge, he vanished into the shadows with his militia and eventually started targeting Imperial outposts. His goal? Draw out Darth Vader. Instead, he got something unexpected: Vader's secret apprentice. The two clashed in a brutal duel above Nar Shaddaa. Kota lost. Blinded in the fight and disconnected from the Force, he disappeared, broken, drinking away his shame in the depths of Cloud City. But fate wasn't done with Kota. The same apprentice who defeated him came back, this time asking for guidance. Despite recognizing the man who'd blinded him, Kota sensed light in him. Against all odds, he trained the apprentice and helped him unite key senators Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and Garm Bel Iblis, laying the foundation of the Rebel Alliance. Captured during the Corellian Treaty meeting and imprisoned on the Death Star, Kota was nearly executed by the Emperor himself. He was saved in the last moment by the apprentice who sacrificed himself to let Kota and the others escape. Kota went on to serve as a general in the early rebellion, leading commando teams and taking the fight to the Empire. Even after enduring torture and gladiatorial combat, Kota led the assault on Kamino during the Clone Rebellion and played a key role in Vader's capture. Legends Jedi Master Kakruk. Kakruk is one of the few Jedi who managed to survive not just Order 66, but nearly every major galactic conflict from the fall of the Republic to the Second Imperial Civil War. Known for his massive frame and even larger resilience, this whippet Jedi Master lived through an era where Jedi extinction seemed inevitable. He first came to prominence during the Clone Wars, fighting in key battles like the Yunchori Uprising and later the Outer Rim sieges. At one point, after a devastating loss on Tyr, he joined a dissident Jedi faction questioning the war itself. But after surviving betrayal by fellow Jedi Quinlan Vos, Kakruk recommitted himself to the Council and the Republic. He was presumed dead more than once, including during Order 66, but always reappeared. At the time of the Purge, Kakruk was on Seleucami, one of the last major battlegrounds of the war. While most Jedi fell to the clone betrayal, Kakruk escaped, once again defying the odds. Rather than jump into the Galactic Civil War, he went deep underground, only resurfacing decades later to join Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order. By the time of the One Sith's rise, Kakruk had become one of the Order's most respected masters, playing a vital role in uniting Jedi remnants, the Galactic Alliance, and the Fel Empire against Darth Krayt. He lived long enough to help rebuild galactic leadership as one of the three triumvirs of the reformed Galactic Alliance, making him not just a survivor of Order 66, but a witness to the galaxy's transformation over a century. Legends Jedi Master Celeste Morn. Celeste Morn was never supposed to survive into the age of Darth Vader, let alone meet 3 generations of the Skywalker legacy. She was a Jedi Shadow during the Old Republic, operating in secrecy for the Jedi Covenant. Her mission was to retrieve the ancient and dangerous Mur Talisman, a Sith artifact capable of turning beings into monstrous Rakghouls and granting its wielder dark power. But when she bonded with the talisman to keep it from falling into the wrong hands, it came with a cost: possession by the spirit of the Sith Lord Karnes Mur. Realizing the danger she posed, Celeste willingly sealed herself in stasis inside an ancient Sith prison, hoping to contain Mur forever. She stayed entombed for nearly 4,000 years. In 19 BBY, not long after the fall of the Jedi Order, Darth Vader unearthed her. When he released her, Celeste emerged into a galaxy now ruled by the Sith. She fought Vader and survived, driven by Mur's power and her own refusal to let the Sith win. She spent the next decades in isolation, her mind breaking under the pressure of resisting Mur. She resurfaced during the Galactic Civil War, battling Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa before vanishing into deep space. Over a century later, she returned, alive, still possessed, and commanding a Star Destroyer. Her final act came when she allied with Cade Skywalker to bring down Darth Krayt. Knowing she couldn't resist Mur forever, she asked Cade to end her life, and with her death, Karnes Mur's spirit was finally destroyed. Legends Jedi Master Plet. Plet was one of the rare Jedi who survived Order 66, not by running or fighting, but by vanishing long before it ever happened. A Ho-Din Jedi Master and botanist, Plet had already left the public eye decades before the Clone Wars. Around 88 BBY, he settled on the remote planet Belsavis, drawn by its volcanic rift valleys and isolated ecosystems. There, he built a hidden enclave deep in the geothermal jungles beneath the glaciers, part temple, part greenhouse, part laboratory. When the Jedi Order fell in 19 BBY, Plett's retreat became a refuge. Survivors from the Jedi Temple fled to him, including dozens of Force-sensitive children. Plett sheltered them in the caverns beneath his valley, disguising their presence and even using the Force to mentally shield key passages. For a time, they were safe, but the Empire found them. Palpatine dispatched the Eye of Palpatine, a massive automated battle moon, to annihilate the Sanctuary. 2 Jedi, Callista Ming and Gaith Eris, intercepted it. Eris died trying to escape, but Callista stayed aboard and sacrificed herself to disable the weapon, saving everyone on Belsavis. After a final skirmish with a squadron of Imperial fighters, Plett and the surviving Jedi children fled the planet. He left the valley in the care of trusted corporations to protect the native Maluki, and then disappeared from galactic history. The remnants of his legacy, his enclave, training devices, and influence would later be uncovered by Han and Leia, aiding the rise of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order. Legends Jedi Master, Quarmal. Quarmal was a Jedi Master who survived being gunned down by battle droids thanks to his Abyssan physiology. Presumed dead after a clash with General Grievous, he was later captured and corrupted by Darth Sidious. During the rise of the Empire, Quarmal became a dark side sleeper agent. After the Battle of Endor, he resurfaced under the guise of peace advocate, secretly working to weaken the New Republic. His true identity was exposed by the new Jedi, who confronted and defeated him. His fall marked the end of a Jedi who had once defied both the Council and the Sith. Legends Jedi Master Tra-Sa. Tra-Sa wasn't just a Jedi Master. She was a living tree, a Neti, and one of the oldest surviving members of the Order, with roots stretching back centuries before the Clone Wars. Wise, serene, and deeply connected to the Force through nature, she served as the watchman of the Kifu sector and formed a quiet, lifelong bond with fellow Master Tholm. When the Clone Wars broke out, Sa took up arms as a Jedi general, and when Order 66 came, she survived, retreating to Kashyyyk with Tholm, his former Padawan Quinlan Vos, and Vos's family. In the years that followed, she watched the Jedi Order fall, Tholm pass, and the galaxy descend into darkness, but she endured. Sa lived long enough to join Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order and once again serve on the Jedi Council, this time beside her old ally, Master Kakruk. More than a century after the fall of the Republic, she made her final stand during the assault on Tyvas. As Sith forces attacked the Jedi's hidden temple, Sa channeled the Force through the temple's core, unleashing a massive surge of light that carved through the enemy fleet. Her sacrifice opened a path for the Jedi and their allies to escape, turning the tide of the war. Even in death, Tra-Sa was the embodiment of the light, patient, enduring, and rooted in hope. Legends Jedi Master Tholm. Jedi Master Tholm survived Order 66 by retreating to Kashyyyk with fellow Jedi and lover Tra-Sa. A veteran of both the Stark Hyperspace War and Clone Wars, Tholm was a master of espionage and once mentored both Quinlan Vos and Aayla Secura. He orchestrated Vos's deep cover infiltration of Count Dooku's inner circle, later bringing him back from the dark side during the Battle of Seleucami. Wounded multiple times and hunted by Sith agents, Tholm eventually died in hiding and was honored with a Jedi funeral on Anzat. His legacy lived on through his students and the rebellion. Legends Jedi Master Ishu Shen Jon. Ishu Shen Jon was a Jedi Master trained by Mace Windu and a rising star during the Clone Wars. After watching his Padawan Star Mreath fall in battle, he began walking a darker path. Driven by vengeance, Shen Jon hunted down the Chiss warlord Severance Tan and killed her, calling on the dark side to do it. He vanished into self-imposed exile, surviving Order 66 in hiding. Years later, he re-emerged on Krant, aiding Princess Leia against the Empire. Shen Jon died dueling Darth Vader, destroying a Jedi artifact rather than surrender it. His final acts gave Leia the chance to escape. Legends Jedi Master Vin Thorla. Vin Thorla's story is one of deep loss, quiet resilience, and unwavering purpose in the face of tragedy. Once a lightsaber master at the Almas Academy, Thorla's career took a dark turn after a mission to dismantle a pirate base ended in the death of his Padawan. Consumed by guilt, he exiled himself to Ryloth, where Force visions guided him to build the Sanctuary, the enclave for escaped Twi'lek slaves. There, he found purpose again, training a new Padawan, Dorv, and defending the innocent. But peace didn't last. During the Jedi Purge, Inquisitor Valen Draco found Thorla, turned Dorv against him, and forced him to strike down his own apprentice. Captured and tortured, Thorla endured. His legacy, though scarred, remained one of compassion and strength. Thorla's survival of Order 66 wasn't just about hiding, it was about protecting those the galaxy forgot. Legends Jedi Master Vamilad. Jedi Master Vamilad survived Order 66 by going into deep hiding as the Empire rose. Though his location remained secret, he supported an underground network of Jedi fugitives. Working with survivors like Jyn Altus, Vamilad helped shelter those fleeing the Purge, always just out of the Empire's reach. Legends Jedi Master Zhao. Zhao wasn't your typical Jedi Master. Blind, ancient, and wandering the galaxy with a lightsaber cane and a pot of stew, he chose the path of the Force over the commands of the Jedi Council. Instead of fighting in the Clone Wars, he followed the will of the Force, one bowl of soup at a time. Zhao believed the flavor of his food reflected the eater's balance within the Force. To the aligned, it was delicious. To the conflicted, it was bitter. But beneath this quiet wisdom was a warrior. Even without sight, Zhao was deadly with his saber, and when Order 66 fell, his disguise as a beggar helped him slip past Imperial forces on Seleucami. Later, during the Jedi Purge, Zhao crossed paths with Master Krook and a group of younglings on Arkinia. When a local militia massacred the refugee camp, Zhao protected the younglings, guiding them through the mountains and shielding them with the Force. He even taught one of them, Sidiri, a lesson that would later lead to her dark moment of rage when she killed their pursuers. Zhao and the children found a refuge with the native Yunu and took shelter in an old Jedi outpost. But when Sidiri fled, Zhao followed, choosing once again to walk the path the Force laid before him. After that, he vanished from the known galaxy. Whether he lived or died remains a mystery. Legends Jedi Master Arlagan Zay. Arlagan Zay was a Jedi Master who was the director of Special Forces during the Clone Wars, overseeing the Republic's elite commandos and navigating the war's dirtiest secrets. While many Jedi led troops into battle, Zay was entrenched in intelligence, working with ARC troopers and Nulls to uncover deeper threats, including inflated Separatist droid numbers and war crimes committed by both sides. As the war dragged on, Zay's faith in the Republic wavered. He grew disillusioned by the treatment of clone troopers, living beings bred only to die. When Order 66 hit, Zay was inside the Jedi Temple. He barely survived the massacre led by Darth Vader in the 501st. Injured and reeling from betrayal, Zay fled to Special Ops HQ, where two clones, Captain Maze and Arc Captain Ordo, intercepted him. When Zay realized Palpatine was the Sith Lord behind it all, he demanded they kill him to keep his knowledge from falling into enemy hands. Maze refused and instead smuggled Zay off-world to Mandalore. There, Zay went into hiding at Kal Skirata's secret bunker alongside other Jedi fugitives, some of whom, like Bardan Jusik and the ancient Kinaha, had already walked away from the Order. Zay kept a low profile, ultimately relocating to join Master Jyn Altus's splinter Jedi group. Zay's survival wasn't just luck, it was a result of loyalty earned in the most unlikely places, among the clones he once commanded, and the Mandalorians who had every reason to despise the Jedi, but chose not to. Legends Jedi Knight Kuran. Kuran was a Jedi Knight who served Order 60. Kuran was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66 and went into hiding as the Empire rose. Troubled by the fall of fellow Jedi like Anakin Skywalker and Jarek, he sought wisdom from Yoda, who sent him on a mission to find the mythical valley of the Jedi. During his search, Ran befriended Morgan Katan and entrusted him with guarding the valley's location and Ran's lightsaber, believing Morgan's son, Kyle Katan, would one day be key to the valley's fate. Ran was eventually captured by Jarek and his Dark Jedi. Rather than betray the valley, he resisted, even as his companions were killed. But Jarek tore the knowledge from his mind through the Force. Overcome with guilt, Ran made a desperate final stand aboard the Vengeance, killing several Dark Jedi before being struck down. But death wasn't the end. Having learned from Yoda how to manifest as a Force ghost, Ran guided Kyle Katarn on his journey to become a Jedi and defeat Jarek. He warned, encouraged, and reminded Kyle of the dangers of the dark side. His guidance helped Kyle stay true to the light and ultimately free the trapped spirits in the Valley of the Jedi. Ran's legacy lived on not just through Kyle, but through his belief in redemption, something he realized even for the Fallen in his final moments. Legends Jedi Knight, Tiberius Anderlock. Tiberius Anderlock is one of the more obscure Order 66 survivors. A former Jedi turned starfighter pilot, Anderlock managed to stay off the Empire's radar for the years after the rise of the New Order. By the time of the Galactic Civil War, he was flying a Kirags assault fighter near Dathomir, far from the Jedi Temple, and even farther from the structured life of the Order he once served. At some point after the Battle of Yavin, the Empire caught wind of him. A pilot from the elite Black Epsilon squadron was dispatched to assist in taking him down. Anderlock was ultimately killed in the ensuing space battle. His appearance is limited to the Jump to Lightspeed expansion for Star Wars Galaxy, making him one of the many forgotten Jedi who escaped Order 66, only to fall later, alone and without ceremony, in the shadow of the Empire. Legends Jedi Knight, Tel Angor. Tel Angor was once a revered Jedi Knight of the Silver Jedi Order until an experiment to fully merge with the Force went horribly wrong. Instead of becoming a beacon of light, he was consumed by the dark side and transformed into the Force Vampire, a creature that survives by draining the Force from living beings. He slaughtered his creators and vanished, feeding on Jedi and Force sensitives across the galaxy. Eventually captured and imprisoned in a hyperspace looping ship, he escaped years later, resuming his hunt. A walking dark side nexus, the Force Vampire became a mythic terror whispered about by surviving Jedi. Legends Jedi, Fable Aston. Born to a Jedi Knight shortly after the rise of the Empire, Fable Aston was raised in hiding and secretly trained in the Force by her mother. Later, Fable joined the rebellion, but her past caught up with her when she dueled the Dark Jedi Vialko and was nearly killed. To defend herself from further darkside attacks, she sought training from former Inquisitor Alderic Brandel, eventually falling in love with his son, Jalib. But Brandel had other plans. He arranged for her to face Vialko again, manipulating her into killing him through an illusion to push her toward the dark side. When she realized the deception, it was already too late. Alderic intended to deliver her to Emperor Palpatine on Biss, but Jalib betrayed his father, freeing Fable and helping her escape with her friend Deke. She returned to the rebellion scarred, but not broken. Despite her brush with darkness, Fable held on to her identity, proving herself not only a survivor of Order 66's long shadow, but a symbol of the light enduring. Legends Jedi, Ul Amod. Ul Amod's connection to the Jedi Purge is thin, but technically he qualifies, if only because he lived through it. A Force-sensitive Ithorian, Amod survived Order 66 and the rise of the Empire, only to meet a far stranger end years later. By the time of the Galactic Civil War, he found himself imprisoned on Dathomir in an Imperial facility conducting bioweapons research. There, he became a victim of the infamous Blackwing virus, an experimental pathogen that reanimated the dead. Ul was transformed into a mindless undead creature and ultimately destroyed by a spacer exploring the quarantine zone, a haunting fate for a forgotten survivor. Legends Jedi Knight, Beldorian. Beldorian the Hutt stands as one of the strangest and rarest survivors of Order 66, because technically he wasn't hunted. By the time the Jedi Purge began, Beldorian had already long fallen to the dark side and abandoned the Jedi Order centuries earlier in 400 BBY. I know this one is technically cheating, but give us a break, guys. Originally trained at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Beldorian was the only known Hutt to become a Jedi Knight. Sent on a mission to Nam Chorios, he succumbed to the dark side and seized power, ruling the planet as a despotic, force-wielding tyrant. He maintained his strength and unnaturally long life with the help from a dark side-aligned parasite, Dazim. It wasn't until 13 ABY that Beldorian's rule was ended, when Leia Organa Solo dueled and killed him. Despite his massive strength and force power, he was outmatched by Leia's agility and determination. Legends Jedi Knights Empatogeios Brand. Empatogeios Brand was a Jedi Knight with a name as bold as his fate. Trained by Jedi Master Yaddle, he survived not just Order 66, but Darth Vader himself. After the Clone Wars, Brand was ambushed near Nar Shaddaa. His starfighter was torn apart by Vader, and Brand was left to die. But fate had other plans. He was rescued by the Ganathans, a primitive yet noble people who gave him a second chance, rebuilding his shattered body with advanced prosthetics and making him their king. For years, Brand remained in exile, believing the Jedi Order lost, until the Millennium Falcon crash-landed in Ganathan space. Hearing from Han and Leia that Luke Skywalker was rebuilding the Order, Brand returned to the fight. He stood alongside Luke in the final confrontation with a cloned Emperor Palpatine on Onderon. When Palpatine's final clone was destroyed and his spirit tried to escape, Brand did the impossible. He used the Force to bind Palpatine's soul to his own. As Brand died, he dragged the Emperor's essence with him into the netherworld of the Force, where it would be imprisoned forever by the spirits of fallen Jedi. Brand didn't just survive the Purge, he ended Palpatine's reign once and for all. Legends Jedi Nejar Bartolo. Nejar Bartolo was a Twi'lek Jedi pilot who managed to survive the Great Jedi Purge, only to resurface years later during the Galactic Civil War. Flying an RZ-1 A-Wing interceptor, Nejar was still resisting Imperial rule long after Order 66, hiding in the shadows and striking where he could. But his past finally caught up to him in the Dathomir system. The Empire's elite Black Epsilon squadron tracked him down and sent a pilot to eliminate him. In a brief but intense starfighter duel, Nejar was shot down and killed. Yet another Jedi whose final stand was buried in the margins of galactic history. Legends Jedi Knights Kai Justice. Kai Justice was one of the few Jedi Knights who survived the immediate aftermath of Order 66, and he did so by vanishing into the shadows. A skilled pilot, warrior, and diplomat, Justice had long served the Republic with distinction, even working with the Wookiees of Kashyyyk to stop a sabotage plot during the Clone Wars. He survived battles on Geonosis, Strongar, and countless other fronts, and when the Jedi fell, he simply disappeared. For nearly 2 decades, he lived in hiding, always one step ahead of Imperial hunters. But in 0 BBY, the Empire finally caught up to him. Captured and taken aboard the first Death Star, Kai Justice was executed by Darth Vader himself, one of the last casualties of the Jedi Purge. Legends Jedi Knight Valen Draco. Valen Draco's fall was as tragic as it was terrifying. Once a Jedi Knight and apprentice to Master Denia, Draco fought with ferocity during the Clone Wars, but that passion slowly turned to obsession. After nearly dying in battle, he gave in to the dark side completely, embracing the Empire and joining the Inquisitors. As an Inquisitor, Draco became ruthless, leading investigations into suspected traitors like Bail Organa and playing a major role in the Sarlacc Project, a prototype superstar destroyer. He even captured and tortured his former master, Denia, before she gave her life to help stop him. Draco died on Biss, consumed by the very darkness he once swore to fight. Legends Jedi Marcus Dorivon. Marcus Dorivon was a Jedi Guardian who managed to survive the Purge and remain active well into the Galactic Civil War. Decades after Order 66, Dorivon resurfaced during a search for a powerful holocron hidden at the mysterious Well of Shadows. Teaming up with 2 other Force sensitives, Dal Kir and Zora Sasori, he tracked the artifact only to find that an explorer named Kasuni Tam had reached it first. Their recovery effort was nearly cut short by Inquisitor Saw Veng and a squad of stormtroopers, but against the odds, Dorivon and his allies escaped with the holocron, living proof that the Jedi flames still flickered. Legends Jedi Eliza. Eliza was one of the rare Jedi who survived not through combat, but by walking away. As the Clone Wars pushed the Jedi Order to its breaking point, Eliza, haunted by the carnage, left for a meditative retreat. That decision, driven by wariness, saved her life. When Order 66 was executed, she was far from the front lines. In the years that followed, she disappeared into the urban chaos of Nar Shaddaa, hiding among criminals and refugees. When her aging lightsaber failed, Eliza resurfaced, traveling to Cloud City to secretly bid on the Jewel of Yavin, hoping to forge a new blade and perhaps a new path. Legends Jedi, Neth and Asteri. Neth and Asteri survived Order 66 not just as a Jedi but as a husband and father. When the Clone Wars ended and the Jedi were marked for death, Asteri disappeared into the shadows, fleeing to the remote planet Ramalai with his secret wife, Charis. There, they welcomed a daughter, Nadra, into a galaxy now ruled by fear. But even on the fringes, danger loomed. To protect them, Neth made an unthinkable choice. He left his family behind, vanishing to keep the Empire's gaze off them. A Jedi by title, but a father at heart, Asteri's greatest act of heroism was letting go. Legends Jedi, Jel. Jel was a Jedi Guardian who escaped Order 66 and vanished into the Outer Rim, building a quiet life as a farmer on Dalakron 4. But even in exile, the Force wasn't finished with him. He watched over a boy named Caleb, prophesied as the Child of Light, and raised his Force-sensitive granddaughter, Jara, in secret. Years later, Jel reached out to the Rebel Alliance, desperate to protect Caleb from the growing reach of the Empire. But before help arrived, a dark Jedi named Tol Skurrus found him. Despite brutal torture, Jel held on just long enough to pass Caleb's location to the Rebels, dying a Jedi, a Guardian, to the very end. Legends Jedi, Gilflin. Gilflin was a dark side adept who surfaced during the early New Republic era, though his true origins remain murky. Some claim he survived Order 66 while others believe he was self-taught, emerging long after the Jedi Purge. Obsessed with restoring balance by crushing the rising light, Gilflin hunted young Force sensitives across the galaxy, targeting future heroes before they could rise. Operating from his freighter, the Mutilator, he stalked places like Treasure Ship Row, guided by visions of doom and a desire to stop the next Luke Skywalker before they could begin. Legends Jedi Knight, Halbert. Halbert was a Jedi Knight of the Old Republic, long before the Clone Wars, but her fate is one of strange preservation. While leading Jedi against a dark Jedi tyrant who had enslaved the Cathol species, Halbert became trapped in a stasis pod after a hyperspace rupture tainted the region with dark side energy. Preserved in meditation for centuries, she unknowingly survived the fall of the Jedi Order and rise of the Empire. Awakened by the crew of the Far Star during the New Republic era, Halbert ultimately sacrificed herself to save her descendant, Jessa Daegis, and become one with the Force. Legends Jedi Knights, Ilenic Itkla. Ilenic Itkla was a rare Kamasi Jedi Knight, respected for his diplomacy, wisdom, and unwavering pacifism. Unlike many of his peers, he believed negotiation was the Jedi's true weapon, and he rarely drew his lightsaber. During the Clone Wars, he undertook critical missions alongside Jedi like Aayla Secura and his close friend Neja Halcyon, even surviving a deadly encounter with Dark Jedi Nikos Tyrus. When Order 66 was executed, Itkla quietly disappeared, avoiding the Empire's Jedi Purge by relying on his subtlety and political insight rather than violence. He later became a trusted advisor to Bail Organa on Alderaan, continuing to aid the growing rebellion from behind the scenes. Sadly, his life ended when the Death Star annihilated Alderaan in Zero BBY. But Idkla's legacy endured. His recorded memories were later used to bring peace between the Jedi and Force sects like the Gensarai, proving that even in death, his influence remained a force for unity. Legends Jedi, Jorad. Jorad's story is a tragic twist on the fate of many Jedi who survived Order 66, only to fall victim to the darkness in another way. Once a Jedi Guardian of the Republic, Jorad lived through the Clone Wars and the Purge that followed. But instead of staying hidden, he was captured by the Empire's dreaded Inquisitorius. There he was broken, twisted, and ultimately turned into the very thing he once stood against, an Inquisitor. Stationed on Prakith, home of the Citadel Inquisitorius, Jorad patrolled the streets of Pruk City, hunting down Force sensitives. When Alderaanian resistance agents infiltrated the city to rescue Jedi Master Denia, Jorad found them and made sure they knew exactly who they were up against. No longer the protector he once was, Jorad struck with a red blade and a loyal squad at his side. His fall from Jedi to Hunter is a grim reminder of the many ways Order 66 broke the Jedi Order. Legends: Zalbar Jivun. Zalbar Jivun was a Force-sensitive Twi'lek hiding on Endor during the height of the Galactic Civil War. Although little is known about his past, his survival into the Imperial era, likely through Order 66, marks him as one of the hidden few who eluded the Purge. He aligned himself with the Rebel Alliance, taking refuge with a cell of operatives on the Forest Moon. Unfortunately, Inquisitor Loam Reg dispatched Imperial agents to locate and destroy the base. Zalbar and most of his companions were killed in the assault, ending another quiet chapter in Jedi resistance. Legends Jedi Knight Kadan. Kadan's story is a dark mirror of the Jedi path, one shaped by philosophy, foresight, and ultimately betrayal. Once a Jedi Knight, Kadan turned away from the Order after concluding that true mastery of the Force required embracing both the light and the dark. Seduced by the power of the dark side, his visions of the future grew clearer, and he joined the prophets of the dark side. Under Darth Sidious, Kadan rose to become Supreme Prophet and Imperial Advisor, predicting galactic events with chilling accuracy. But when he foresaw the Emperor's fall at Endor, Kadan vanished into self-imposed exile. His story ended in tragedy, slain by his own former apprentice, Azrakel. Yet his legacy as a powerful, complex Force adept endures. Legends Jedi Jor-Kai. Jor-Kai was an aging Jedi who had survived the Jedi Purge by retreating to the remote world of Altakar 4. There, he lived quietly for years until the Force led him to reach out to a young Twi'lek slave girl named Shalia. Through dreams, he called her to him, and when she escaped her captors, Jor-Kai began training her in the ways of the Jedi. But their time together was short-lived. Imperial stormtroopers discovered their presence, and in a final act of selflessness, Jor-Kai gave his life holding them off, ensuring Shalia could escape and carry on the Jedi legacy. Legends Jedi Kaolin. Kaolin was a Jedi who chose survival through subtlety. Following the Jedi Purge, he disappeared into the galaxy's shadows, taking up work as a crew member aboard a YT-1300 freighter under Captain Nuendo Rash. While many Jedi tried to rally resistance or wage secret wars, Kaolin's path was quieter, running cargo and staying off the Empire's radar. During a run to deliver grain to the Rebel Alliance, the crew landed on Tatooine, where Jabba the Hutt's thugs were waiting to collect on a debt from Rash. After escaping, Rash impulsively dumped the cargo over Jabba's palace, much to Kaolin's frustration. For a Jedi, staying hidden was one thing, dealing with reckless smugglers was another entirely. Still, Kaolin endured, hiding in plain sight among the Outer Rim's underworld, his lightsaber quiet but not forgotten. Legends Jedi Jimbo Kinnison. Jimbo Kinnison was a mysterious and enigmatic figure, described as a failed Jedi who resurfaced during the Galactic Civil War. While little is known about his early life or how he survived Order 66, what is clear is that Kinnison didn't follow the traditional Jedi path. He wielded a lightsaber and had learned control-based Force powers, but there were whispers that he also dabbled in the dark side. Whether he fell or simply walked the line remains unknown. At one point, Kinnison's path crossed with the smuggler Roak Garnet, who attacked him using only a club, suggesting Kinnison had become more local legend than galactic threat. This cryptic encounter, likely on the fringes of civilized space, paints Kinnison not as a grand player in galactic politics, but as a strange remnant of a fallen order, drifting in the shadows between light and dark. His fate, like much of his life, is left untold. Legends Jedi Master Matameno Kran. Matameno Kran was a Jedi Master from Corellia who quietly outlived the Republic and the Purge that destroyed the Jedi Order. When Order 66 descended like a shadow over the galaxy, Kran disappeared into exile, retreating to the familiar streets of Terena on his homeworld. By the time of the Galactic Civil War, the once prominent Jedi had faded into myth, living in obscurity while the Empire hunted Force sensitives. But Kran hadn't abandoned the Jedi way. In secret, he searched for someone worthy. Someone strong in the Force who could recover the lost relics of fallen Jedi. Their robes, symbols of an order that had nearly vanished from history. Legends Jedi Knight Bardan Jusik. Bardan Jusik began as a Jedi Knight with a conscience and ended as a Mandalorian with a cause. Trained under Master Arlagan Zay during the Clone Wars, Jusic quickly saw the moral cracks in the Jedi Order's reliance on a clone army bred for war. His compassion for clone troopers, treated more like tools than men, drove him to question everything. Unable to reconcile Jedi ideals with the reality of war, Jusic left the Order entirely, trading his robes for Mandalorian armor and taking the name Barden Scarada. He became part of Clan Scarada, aiding in the protection of clone deserters, Force-sensitive children, and other fugitives from the Empire. After Order 66, while other Jedi fled or fought, Jusic stayed, not to save the Jedi Order but to save lives. He eventually went by Gotab, a mysterious Kifar healer on Mandalore, and became a mentor to Venku Scarada, son of Jedi Etain Tomukan and Clone Commando Darman. Long after the Jedi were gone, Gotab was still out there, quietly preserving their light in the shadows. Legends. Lord Kronal. Lord Kronal, also known as Black Hole, was a shadow in the Empire, an agent of chaos, fear, and prophecy. But long before he haunted the HoloNet as a faceless enigma, he may have once walked the halls of the Jedi Temple. Rumors swirled that Kronal had been a Jedi archivist or even a Padawan studying the Force on Coruscant during the final days of the Republic. When Order 66 was issued and the Jedi were hunted down, Kronal was not among the fallen. Whether he escaped the purge or had already turned to darker teachings is uncertain. But what's clear is this: he survived, and what emerged from the ashes of the Jedi Order was something far more sinister. Abandoning the Jedi, if he was ever truly one, Kronal pledged himself to the way of the dark, a nihilistic cult philosophy. His mastery of darksight, the ability to foresee and manipulate potential futures, drew the attention of Darth Sidious, who recruited him as one of the Emperor's most secretive servants. Kronal became a master of manipulation, Sith alchemy, and psychological warfare. He commanded stormtroopers clad in void black armor and built a secret empire within the Empire itself. Obsessed with immortality, he later attempted to transfer his essence into Luke Skywalker, believing the young Jedi to be the galaxy's true harbinger of annihilation. In the end, Kronal's creations destroyed him. Legends. Meloria. Meloria's survival of Order 66 is more of a tragic accident of timing than a daring escape. Long before the clone betrayal swept across the galaxy, she had already left the Jedi Order, haunted by a fatal mistake during a mission gone wrong. Racked with guilt after killing an innocent bystander, Meloria renounced the Force and vanished from galactic affairs. She hid on Dral, a quiet world in the Corellian system, where she retreated to an isolated island and lived in solitude. But her pain didn't fade. Believing her story was over, she placed herself in cryogenic stasis, sealing herself away inside a cave, waiting for a future where the Force might call her once more. Unwittingly, Meloria slept through the Clone Wars, the fall of the Jedi, and the rise of the Empire. She escaped Order 66 not with a lightsaber, but with silence, a forgotten warrior frozen in time, waiting to be remembered. Legends Jedi Knight Rav Naran. Rav Naran was once a Jedi Knight hailed for his discipline and potential. Some even believed he was destined for the Jedi Council. But the Clone Wars twisted many things, and for Naran, the constant battle against chaos awakened something darker within. As a general in the Grand Army of the Republic, he grew harsh and increasingly ruthless, eventually crossing a line no Jedi should. He embraced the dark side. Rather than being killed during Order 66, Naran had already become an enemy of the Jedi. His fall was so profound, the Order captured him and locked him away in stasis beneath the Dawn Temple on Spintir, hoping one day he could be rehabilitated. But the dark side doesn't let go so easily. Decades later, he manipulated a dark side acolyte into freeing him. Once loose, Naran tried to steal holocrons of ancient Jedi knowledge, but a group of Force-sensitive adventurers stood in his way. Calm and calculating, Naran offered a truce, not out of mercy, but to preserve his power for future conquests. Legends Jedi Noslin. Once a Jedi Knight, Noslin vanished into the shadows of the galaxy, taking refuge on a remote space station where he quietly continued his work, not as a warrior but as a teacher. Far from the Jedi Temple, Noslin became a hidden guide for Force-sensitive hopefuls. He didn't advertise his presence, but those attuned to the Force found him, and he tested them. He sent them on introspective trials, teaching lessons of balance, restraint, and self-awareness, often through subtle interactions. From soothing the grief of a grieving Cardass guard to confronting the dark side energy twisted into the bones of forgotten Tatooine villagers, his methods were unorthodox but meaningful. Eventually, he helped his students construct their first lightsabers, but warned them to keep the crystals hidden. Even years after the purge, Noslin knew the danger hadn't passed. His caution was justified. An ISB agent eventually tracked him down. But Noslin wasn't hunted for being a Jedi, not this time. He was forced to polish a Krayt Dragon Pearl for a prototype superweapon. He complied under duress and lived to teach another day. Legends Jedi Knight Pan. Jedi Knight Pan survived Order 66 through patience and disappearance. Once a respected warrior scholar of the Jedi Order, Pan was known less for his lightsaber and more for his obsession with a mysterious ancient relic, the Codex. Even as the Clone Wars raged, Pan maintained his quest, aided by his ever-loyal protocol droid Q4P3. When the Jedi were betrayed and slaughtered during the Great Jedi Purge, Pan vanished into hiding, hoping against hope that his droid would one day return with the artifact. Years passed, the Republic fell, the Jedi faded into myth, but Pan endured, quietly studying the Force in exile. Finally, Q4P3 reappeared, emerging from the lava-scorched world of Mustafar with the Codex in hand. Pan studied it in secrecy, unlocking fragments of forgotten knowledge before fate took the Codex away once more. Legends Jedi Jax Pavan. Jax Pavan escaped the slaughter by vanishing into the shadows of Coruscant. Trained by Master Evan Peel and once a friend of Anakin Skywalker, Jax survived the Clone Wars only to witness the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire. When the Purge came, he abandoned his robes and lightsaber for a trench coat and a new identity, posing as a private investigator in Coruscant's underworld. But Jax didn't just hide. He fought back. He joined the resistance group, Whiplash, smuggling hunted Jedi and political dissidents off-world. His companions included a reprogrammed droid, a journalist, a rogue agent, and a deadly ex-Jedi named Laranth Tarak, with whom he developed a deep connection. Jax's survival put him in the crosshairs of Darth Vader himself. The Dark Lord hunted him across the lower levels of Coruscant, even hiring bounty hunters like Aura Singh to track him down. But Jax held his own, even daring to stand face to face with Vader and survive. Haunted by the knowledge that his friend Anakin had become the Sith Enforcer, Jax continued his rebellion from the shadows, committed to resisting the Empire and honoring the Jedi who fell. Legends Jedi Quid Pro Quo. Quid Pro Quo was a survivor who chose silence over defiance. A Jedi consular and skilled diplomat, Pro Quo managed to evade death when Order 66 was issued, despite being in the core worlds where the Purge hit the hardest. Rather than seek vengeance or rally resistance, he quietly disappeared, traveling the galaxy as the Jedi Order crumbled. Eventually, Pro Quo found refuge on the storm-lashed planet of Poderis. There, he lived a humble life as a speeder mechanic, known only as a quiet, honest worker with a knack for machines. He swapped robes for overalls and his lightsaber for a blaster rifle, though he never truly discarded the symbol of his past. It remained hidden, just like him. Legends Jedi Knight Tynia Wrens. Tynia Wrens was a Jedi Knight who traded robes for rebellion and lost nearly everything along the way. Born on Jian and trained at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Wrens was a devoted Jedi consular with a passion for archaeology and anthropology. But beneath the surface, he defied the Jedi Code, marrying in secret and raising 2 children. When the Clone Wars erupted, he served as a colonel in the Grand Army of the Republic, and even survived a brutal encounter with General Grievous on Parain 2-4. But then came Order 66. Wrens barely escaped the Purge, returning home just long enough to see his world fall to the Empire. His family was torn apart in the invasion, and only his daughter, Padija, survived. He sent her into hiding, but the war had taken too much for him to ever go back to the shadows. Renz joined the Rebel Alliance and became a field operative, wielding the lightsaber he had once buried. Fate reunited him with Padija years later, and together they traveled the galaxy recovering ancient relics stolen by the Empire, turning archaeology into resistance. Each mission brought them closer, and every artifact recovered became a quiet act of rebellion. Legends Jedi Arvin Rolk. Arvin Rolk was a Jedi out of time, literally. Trapped in a stasis aboard an escape pod during the final days of the Republic, Rolk slept through the fall of the Jedi Order and the rise of the Empire. When he finally awoke during the Galactic Civil War, the galaxy he knew was long gone, but his resolve hadn't aged a day. Learning of the Jedi's near extinction, Rolk set out on a bold mission to gather the remaining survivors and rebuild the Jedi Order. He chose the frozen, desolate world of Zish as the new sanctuary. Word of his plans spread quickly, so much so that even Luke Skywalker intended to join him. But the Empire moved faster. Before Rolk could re-establish the Order, Darth Vader and a team of darkside adepts struck. Rolk was killed, his body left buried beneath the ice. Yet his spirit remained, bound to Zish, waiting in the cold for the Jedi to return. Legends Jedi Rune. Rune was one of the many Jedi who vanished into the shadows after Order 66, but unlike many, his fate was sealed not by clones but by a bounty. A Mon Calamari trained in the Jedi arts, Rune survived the Republic's betrayal with a little more than his lightsaber and his instincts. Marked as an enemy of the Empire, he quickly found himself on Imperial watch lists, and eventually, the Bounty Hunters Guild's top 10 most wanted. For years, he evaded capture, his blue blade only igniting when absolutely necessary. But by one ABY, Rune's luck ran out. Tracked down by an unknown hunter, Rune was killed in the field, his bounty collected without fanfare. No grand jewel, no final words, just another name crossed off a list. One more Jedi whose legacy ended in silence. Legends Jedi Knight, Seek Riontar. Seek Riontar was a Gotal Jedi Knight who vanished long before Order 66 was even issued. His disappearance so complete that the Jedi Order listed him as missing years before the Clone Wars began. While others fell to blaster fire or the blades of Inquisitors, Riontar unknowingly escaped the Great Jedi Purge by simply not being there. His fate remained a mystery until decades later when Luke Skywalker discovered his name in the Great Holocron and later encountered him deep in the Maw on the mysterious Sinkhole Station. There, Riontar had become part of the enigmatic Mindwalkers, Force users who traveled beyond the physical world into a metaphysical realm called Beyond Shadows. Though his body perished during one such journey, Riontar's essence endured, helping guide Skywalker through the surreal plane in search of insight into Darth Cadus's dark transformation. Riontar may not have survived in the flesh, but in the Force, he remained a teacher. Legends Jedi Only Shien. Only Shien was a Kadasa Nikto Jedi and pilot who survived the horrors of Order 66, only to meet his end decades later in the shadows of the Galactic Civil War. Little is known about how Shien evaded the initial purge. By the time of the rebellion, he had taken to the stars, piloting a Firespray 31 patrol craft, just like Boba Fett's infamous Slave 1, through the dangerous Dathomir system. Whether he remained committed to the Jedi Code or simply flew under the radar to survive, Shien became known as a skilled and dangerous presence. Eventually, the Empire caught up. A member of the elite Black Epsilon Squadron, known only as Insurgent, issued a hit on Shien and two other Force-sensitive fugitives. The order was clear: track them, engage them, and eliminate them. Shien's story ended in a dogfight. Legends Jedi Knight Corwin Shelvey. Corwin Shelvey's story is one of survival, sacrifice, and the constant battle between light and dark. A Jedi Knight during the rise of the Empire, Shelvey survived Order 66 under the secret guidance of his master, Darren Arcanian. Trained in the shadows of the galaxy, Corwin quickly proved himself gifted but also headstrong, his anger and impatience clashing with Arcanian's measured wisdom. Their journey took them from Bespin to Coruscant, tracking down other surviving Jedi and resisting the Empire. But on Coruscant, their mission turned tragic. Shelvey was captured and tortured by High Inquisitor Tremaine, who murdered his parents and twisted his sister against him. Arcanian's daring rescue saved Corwin, but at the cost of his life. In a fury, Shelvey nearly gave in to the dark side, maiming Tremaine in a brutal duel. Haunted by that rage, Corwin wandered the Outer Rim until finding new purpose with the Rebel Alliance. As a recruiter and Special Forces leader, Shelvey became a symbol of hope and discipline. He trained Force sensitives, guided missions against the Empire, and embodied the Jedi ideal. Legends Jedi Rachi Sitra. Rachi Sitra was a Jedi who survived Order 66 and chose to keep fighting. A Twi'lek warrior and archaeologist, she once walked the halls of the Jedi Temple before going into exile during the Jedi Purge. Decades later, during the Galactic Civil War, she emerged from hiding not as a hermit but as a commander in the Rebel Alliance. She led Jedi into battle during the defense of a rebel base on Talos, even confronting Darth Vader himself to protect her fellow soldiers. Though eventually overpowered, she survived and escaped. Captured later by Boba Fett and imprisoned by the Empire, she was rescued by the rebels and returned to the fight. Her missions spanned the galaxy, from dueling dark Jedi to seeking out dangerous Night Sisters on Hoth, even joining Han Solo and Chewbacca in the fight against undead stormtroopers during the Blackwing Crisis. Legends Jedi Knight Tasselda. Tasselda, also known as Cell, was once a Jedi Knight of the Republic whose Order 66 survival came at a heavy cost. Centuries before the Clone Wars, Tasselda was a bright and capable Jedi, trained on Coruscant and dispatched across the galaxy. But on a mission to the unstable world of Nam Chorios, she fell, both physically and spiritually. After a disastrous partnership with the corrupt Jedi Beldorian the Hutt, Tasselda was consumed by the dark side and descended into madness, surviving only by feeding on the force-altering drock insects that plagued the planet. The drocks preserved her body but fractured her mind, each insect carrying the memories of its victims. While the Jedi Order was wiped out across the stars, Tasselda remained trapped in this strange stasis, forgotten by history, hidden from the Empire. Decades later, the Theran listeners discovered her, and through force-based therapy, they helped restore her mind. Tasselda reclaimed her sanity and became a respected listener herself, guiding others in the ancient arts of Nam Chorios. Her story didn't end in peace though. Years later, Grandmaster Luke Skywalker crossed paths with her again, this time in his hunt for the dark side entity, Abeloth. Though healed, Tasselda was once again drawn into the darkness, manipulated by Abeloth and nearly used as a pawn. Legends Jedi Knight Damien Tantrelius. Damien Tantrelius survived Order 66 in perhaps the most unusual way of all, by forgetting he was a Jedi. Once a Jedi Knight during the Clone Wars, Tantrelius suffered memory loss after a tragic mission led to the death of a civilian, specifically the wife of the man who would become Governor Zanin. Haunted and broken, the Jedi forgot everything: his name, his past, and even the Force. Reinventing himself as an actor, Tantrelius unknowingly rose to fame playing a Jedi. He headlined the stage drama Jedi Men from Baronis, and later its sequel, charming audiences with performances that were, quite literally, entrancing, since he was still unknowingly using the Force to mesmerize the crowd. During the rise of the Empire, he was left untouched by the Jedi Purge. After all, even he didn't know he was a Jedi. Living aboard the Mobile Canal City Landslasher 4 on Peacoin, Tantrelius formed a troupe called the Tantrelius Theatre Group, where he performed with his daughter Plum and a cast of eccentric companions. It wasn't until years later, during the Galactic Civil War, that traces of his past began to surface again, when rebel agents sought his help after Plum was kidnapped by mistake. Though flashes of his old self would return, he continued to live as a performer, his true identity buried under layers of trauma, costumes, and curtain calls. Dawn Tavers was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66 not by vanishing into the shadows, but by reinventing himself entirely. Once a Jedi Guardian of the Republic, Tavers managed to slip through the cracks when the Jedi Order was destroyed by Palpatine's purge. Where many Jedi chose isolation or rebellion, Tavers chose disguise. Shedding his robes, he leaned into a love for high fashion, adopting stylized attire to blend in and express a new identity, one that kept him hidden in plain sight. Though his actions during the Clone Wars are lost to history, Tavers resurfaced years later as a member of the Rebel Alliance. His image, alongside that of fellow Jedi Sialan Wez, was used in a powerful piece of Rebel propaganda titled Remember Alderaan. The poster became a symbol of hope and remembrance, a visual reminder of what the Empire had taken and what the Alliance was fighting to restore. Legends Jedi Wal Timbus. Wal Timbus was an eccentric Jedi survivor of Order 66 who joined the Rebel Alliance. Stationed on Tall, he led Parody Squad during an Imperial assault. Though Force-sensitive, he displayed no powers, relying instead on a lightsaber and blaster to defend the outpost against the Dominator. Legends Jedi Knight Travgen. Travgen was a Jedi Knight who lost his way before Order 66 was even issued. Having already fallen to the dark side and left the Order, he survived the Jedi Purge by being out of reach. He wandered the galaxy in exile, eventually settling on the ancient Jedi world of Ossus. There, he ruled over the native Isana people with quiet authority, using his command of the Force to protect the ruins of the Great Jedi Library, perhaps as penance, or perhaps to preserve what the Empire sought to erase. For over a decade, he remained in seclusion, watching the galaxy shift around him. When Luke Skywalker and Cam Solusar came to Ossus, seeking lost knowledge to rebuild the Jedi, Travgen didn't confront them. Instead, from the shadows, he allowed them to access the sacred ruins, an unspoken gesture of redemption. Though never seen, Travgen's silent act symbolized a return to the light, ending his long exile. Legends Jedi Master Briano Umak. Briano Umak was a Mon Calamari Jedi Master known not just for his skill with a lightsaber, but for his unwavering belief in peace over violence. When Order 66 shattered the Jedi Order, Umak survived the Purge by fleeing into the shadows of the galaxy and eventually finding refuge on Dantooine, a world far from the Empire's central gaze. There, among quiet plains and ancient ruins, he began to rebuild, not the Order, but its values. He trained fellow survivors in the art of defense, not vengeance, teaching that true Jedi mastery isn't forged through bloodshed. His legacy lived in whispered lessons and quiet resistance, guiding others back from the edge of the dark side. Umak didn't just survive Order 66, he preserved the Jedi spirit in its truest form. Legends Jedi Trillane Unter. Trillane Unter was a Corellian Jedi whose story quietly diverged from tragedy during the chaos of Order 66. A close friend of Jedi Master Darus Jet, she was drawn into somewhat of a mystery during the Clone Wars, involving the mysterious delivery of ancient starship parts that would eventually become the vessel Legacy, named at her suggestion. But when the Jedi Purge began, Unter didn't fall to clone blaster fire. Instead, ARC Trooper Marek, loyal to her and perhaps to something deeper than just orders, marooned her on a remote world, stranding her not out of betrayal but to save her life. To keep her hidden, he told Jet she had been killed. Trillane was alive, but alone. Legends Jedi Urutar. Urutar was once a Jedi, a guardian of peace in the galaxy, until the Order fell. When Order 66 was unleashed, Urutar fled to the towering Roshia trees of Kashyyyk. There, isolated and without the guiding structure of the Order, his sanity unraveled. He built a modest hovel along the Riyat Trail, living in exile while the Empire reshaped the galaxy. But time and solitude warped him into something the locals came to fear. No longer the Jedi he once was, Urutar had become a madman with a lightsaber. By 1.5 ABY, whispers of the crazy Force wielder drew the attention of a Wookiee named Kreepalk, who feared Urutar's instability would bring danger to their people. A spacer was hired, and the confrontation was swift. Urutar was slain, finally becoming one with the Force. Legends Jedi Knight San Vals. San Vals was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66, but only just. When the clones turned on their Jedi commanders at the end of the Clone Wars, Vals was one of the few who escaped the slaughter. A Quarren from Mon Cala, trained in the Jedi arts from infancy, he had risen to knighthood and fought loyally for the Republic. But in 19 BBY, everything changed. The very troops he once led became his would-be executioners. Vals fled deep into the corporate sector, hiding in a region where Imperial authority was thinner and corruption easier to navigate. But the Force isn't easily silenced. His presence, his power, stirred ripples that drew the attention of the Inquisitorius. The Inquisitors followed the trail straight to Vals. Details of his fate beyond this remain uncertain. Legends Jedi Vergir. Vergir is perhaps one of the most enigmatic Jedi survivors and one of the most controversial figures in Star Wars legends. A Fosh Jedi Knight who vanished decades before the Clone Wars ended, Vergir avoided the Purge entirely by disappearing into the unknown regions. There, she encountered the Yuuzhan Vong, an extragalactic species immune to the Force, and chose to stay with them. For over 50 years, she lived among the Vong, studying their strange culture while hiding her Jedi identity. When the Vong invaded the galaxy, Vergir resurfaced, no longer just the Jedi. She had embraced a darker philosophy. She became the tormentor and mentor of Jacen Solo, putting him through brutal trials meant to reshape his view of the Force. Her teachings rejected the traditional binary of light and dark, insisting that the Force was unified and that morality came not from the Force itself, but from its wielder. Though she eventually sacrificed herself to save Solo during the Battle of Ebark 9, her legacy endured. In time, her Sith connections were revealed, training under Darth Sidious before fleeing his tyranny, and it was Vergir's philosophies that ultimately laid the foundation for Jacen Solo's fall and rebirth as Darth Caedus. Was Vergir a Sith, a rogue Jedi, or something entirely different? Legends Jedi Vima Dar Boda. Vima Dar Boda is one of the oldest surviving Jedi of the Sunrider lineage, and her story is steeped in tragedy, redemption, and forgotten wisdom. She survived Order 66 by fading into obscurity on Nar Shaddaa. Her connection to the Force weakened after succumbing briefly to the dark side. Once a Jedi Knight, Vima had lost her daughter to the darkness and nearly lost herself in the aftermath. But when the Jedi fell, it was her obscurity and perhaps the will of the Force that spared her. In 10 ABY, she resurfaced to aid Leia Organa Solo, gifting her a millennia-old lightsaber and guiding her toward her Jedi destiny. Later, she joined Luke Skywalker, helping to train the earliest members of his new Jedi Order. Though frail and eccentric, her ancient knowledge played a key role in shaping the rebirth of the Jedi. Vima's survival wasn't defined by power, it was defined by endurance, wisdom, and the hope that one day the Jedi would rise again. Legends Jedi Knight Ronnie von Wasaki. Ronnie von Wasaki may be one of the oldest known survivors of the Jedi Order. Frozen in carbonite over 20,000 years before the Galactic Civil War, Wasaki was once a respected Jedi Knight and administrator. But after a bounty was placed on his head, he was captured by a pair of hunters and locked in stasis aboard their freighter, the Starkiller. When a deadly accident damaged the ship's hyperdrive, it drifted at sublight speed for millennia, with Wasaki still entombed inside. By the time he was finally discovered and released during the Galactic Civil War, Wasaki had lost his sight to hibernation sickness and his mind to isolation. Delusional and paranoid, he believed himself to be the literal embodiment of the light side of the Force, hunted by a dark manifestation aboard the ship that rescued him. After attacking his rescuers, the Force itself helped calm his fractured mind. Though still broken, Ronnie von Wasaki stood as a tragic symbol of Jedi resilience pushed to its very limit. Legends Jedi Knight Suljo Ward. Suljo Ward was once a Jedi Knight of vision. A master of precognition, Ward could glimpse possible futures in the heat of battle, shifting outcomes before they even began. But foresight is a dangerous gift. During the Clone Wars, Ward created a holocron to preserve his unique insights. But as the war dragged on and visions of endless conflict haunted him, Ward unraveled. He slid toward paranoia, mistrust, and ultimately the dark side. After murdering separatist envoys on Canon Survivors and killing 2 fellow Jedi, Ward vanished. He fled to Moraband, the ancient homeworld of the Sith, where he lingered in isolation, speaking to the whispers of long-dead Sith Lords. Years later, a group of Force sensitives rediscovered his holocron and sought out Ward himself. They found a broken man, hiding under layers of guilt and delusion. Believing he was fated to die at their hands, Ward drew his lightsaber one final time. Legends Jedi Antaria Wellos. Antaria Wellos was a rare sight in the Jedi Order, a Chiss Jedi, a melodramatic mystic and a survivor. Trained before the rise of the Empire, Wellos lived through the Purge by vanishing into obscurity on the quiet world of Rory. There, she lingered in exile, away from the galaxy's chaos, her melodramatic tendencies remembered as much as her skill with the Force. Decades later, during the Galactic Civil War, a lone spacer stumbled upon her. When the Traveler presented her with a Jinsu Razor lightsaber, Wellos saw something familiar, untapped potential. In a voice as theatrical as ever, she offered the spacer a choice, to walk away or continue down the Jedi path. Little else is known of her fate. Legends Jedi, the Iron Knights. The Iron Knights were unconventional Jedi survivors of Order 66, sentient crystals housed in droid bodies, and yet, undeniably, one with the Force. Trained by the exiled Jedi Master Akinos, these Force-sensitive shards, beings of pure mineral consciousness, had no flesh, no blood, but wielded lightsabers and upheld the Jedi Code with resolute conviction. Their existence was a paradox that baffled the Jedi Council, which ultimately rejected Akinos and his students. But while the galaxy descended into darkness, the Iron Knights endured, hiding on the obscure world of Dweem during the Great Jedi Purge. 70 years passed. When students of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order finally found them, the Iron Knights rejoined the galaxy, no longer shunned but embraced. They fought in the Yuuzhan Vong War, clashing with some of the deadliest threats of the era. One night, Luxem even teetered into darkness after witnessing the destruction of Hosk Station. Legends Jedi Bon and Nia. Bon and Nia were 2 young Jedi initiates who managed to escape Order 66 through the compassion of a clone. As the Jedi Temple fell and clone troopers turned on their commanders, Bon and Nia slipped into the shadows with several other survivors. Their escape came thanks to Herd Coil, a gruff but kind-hearted salvager who smuggled them aboard his junkship. It was a fragile piece, one that was shattered when Coil picked up a wrecked V-19 starfighter with a surprise inside. Clone pilot Hob 147. When the clone awoke and began attacking the salvager's reprogrammed droids, panic spread. The Jedi Initiates feared the worst, but Nia stepped forward. Her plea reached Hob 147 in a way blasters never could. And when stormtroopers came knocking, it was the clone, conditioned to kill Jedi, who lied to protect them. Legends Jedi Padawan Maris Brood. Maris Brood was a Zabrak Padawan who escaped Order 66 and found refuge on the vibrant but volatile world of Felucia, hidden away with Jedi Master Shak Ti. There, in a jungle teeming with Force-sensitive life, she continued her training, but the darkness of the world seeped into her spirit. And when Shak Ti was slain by Darth Vader's secret apprentice, Starkiller, Maris snapped. She took Senator Bail Organa hostage, hoping to trade him for her life if Vader ever found her. But fate sent Starkiller back instead. The two clashed in the heart of the corrupted jungle. When she fell, she begged for mercy, offering to turn from the dark side. To his credit, Starkiller let her go. Whether out of compassion or pity, he saw in Maris a reflection of what he might become. Maris Brood disappeared into the galaxy once more, neither Jedi nor Sith, just another shadow haunted by war, loss, and the choices made in fear. Legends Jedi Drun Canwick. Drun Canwick was never meant to be a warrior, at least not at first. A Jedi initiate from the arts-loving world of Adalon, his training ended abruptly with the rise of the Empire and the Purge that followed. When Order 66 shattered the Order, Canwick fled home, hiding both his identity and his potential. But silence just wasn't in his nature. Canwick began stirring unrest, distributing anti-imperial propaganda, and slowly building a rebellious spirit among the people of Adalon. It worked. too well. The Empire struck back, razing his compound, forcing him into deeper exile. Years later, captured and imprisoned on Gesseril, Canwick didn't break. Instead, he inspired a revolt from within the prison walls, uniting fellow inmates into a rebel strike force. Together, they escaped, and Drun Canwick rejoined the galaxy not just as a Jedi in hiding, but as a full-fledged freedom fighter. Legends Jedi Padawan Shenji Colin. Shenji Colin was a Jedi Padawan on the cusp of knighthood when the galaxy turned upside down. Just 2 months away from her trials, she was dispatched to the peaceful mid-rim world of Daimar for a final test in diplomacy. But before her mission could be completed, the unthinkable happened. Order 66 was issued. Shenji was stranded behind enemy lines. Isolated and blockaded by the new empire, she could have fallen into despair, but she didn't. Colin turned inward, wrestling with fear and grief, resisting the pull of the dark side. Daimar's king, sensing her inner turmoil, gave her purpose: escort his daughter, Princess Wilena, and Senator Alet Comain to safety. With Imperials in pursuit, Colin led the refugees through a gauntlet of danger, breaking blockades, evading capture, and ultimately reaching the outer rim world of Dantooine. There, they found sanctuary with the rebel Prince Torrin. Though still a Padawan, Shenji became a guardian and mentor, recognizing the force sensitivity within the young princess she had sworn to protect. Her knighthood may have been stolen by war, but her spirit remained resolute, living the Jedi Code even in the Empire's shadow. Legends Jedi Winslow Dak. Winslow Dak was once a Jedi student, trained in the ways of peace and balance, but after Order 66, something darker claimed him. At some point following the fall of the Jedi Order, Dak crossed paths with Vader. His resolve was shattered and Vader seduced him to the dark side. Twisted by ambition and the lure of power, Dak betrayed his own Jedi Master, imprisoning him deep within the unknown regions on a remote world called Morkanth. There, Dak built himself a fortress, living like a warlord amid disputed territory between 3 warring alien species. He ruled with fear, surrounding himself with guards and sycophants. But he was obsessed, endlessly tormenting the Jedi who once guided him, desperate to rip from him secrets he had yet to master. The old master, broken but not defeated, reached out through the Force with the last of his strength. His cries echoed across space, pulling in Force-sensitive strangers through cryptic visions and dreams. These seekers uncovered Morkanth's ancient name and navigated a gauntlet of danger through alien conflict and fortress defenses, until they finally confronted Dak himself. In the end, it wasn't Dak's strength that defined him, it was his fall. The would-be Dark Lord was defeated, and the Jedi he imprisoned was at last freed. Legends Jedi Padawan Dre. Dre began as a Jedi Padawan during the Clone Wars, idealistic, brave, and deeply loyal to his master. He once stood toe-to-toe with Darth Maul to save a fellow Jedi, an act of courage that nearly cost him his life. But Order 66 changed everything. While the galaxy burned, Dre survived. Wounded in body and spirit, he retreated to the shadows of Nar Shaddaa. Over time, his grief festered into bitterness. A head injury, isolations, and visions of galactic devastation led him to fall to the dark side. But unlike other fallen Jedi, Dre believed he was acting for the greater good. He foresaw the rise of the Yuuzhan Vong and a terrible weapon that could destroy the new Jedi Order. In his eyes, sacrifice, even assassination, was necessary. Dre manipulated a young Jedi, Finn Galfridian, claiming he was the only one who could stop the Vong's coming threat. But his visions had twisted his mind. Dre sought to murder Chief of State Borsk Failure, believing it would prevent the Vong's victory. When Finn refused to go along, Dre attacked with a red lightsaber, force lightning, and no mercy. Once a promising Jedi, Dre became a would-be tyrant, consumed by fear of the future and rage at the past. Legends Jedi Gru Dunrick. Gru Dunrick was once a hopeful young Jedi initiate trained in the grand halls of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. But unlike many of his peers, Dunric's path never led to knighthood. He completed his academy training, but was never chosen as a Padawan, effectively ending his Jedi career before it truly began. When the Clone Wars broke out, and later the Jedi Purge, Dunric was long gone, just one more name forgotten in the Temple's records. But the Force still lingered within him, faint but not extinguished. Years later, Dunric resurfaced, not as a Jedi, but as a doctor in the Rebel Alliance, stationed on Argonar 3. His medical knowledge saved lives, but his past remained a quiet secret. Still, the embers of the Jedi spark hadn't died. Dunric quietly searched for others sensitive to the Force, hoping one day the Jedi Order might rise again. Legends Jedi Padawan Ekria. Ekria was a slicer, a survivor, and a Jedi Padawan who narrowly escaped the galaxy's darkest turning point. Trained on Coruscant and deployed under Master Aayla Secura, Ekria served as a commander during the Clone Wars, young, brilliant, and already skilled in advanced tech and infiltration. But her world unraveled on Felucia. When Order 66 was issued, Ekria and her fellow Padawans hacked into clone trooper feeds just in time to witness their masters being murdered. Realizing the truth, they fled. Back on Coruscant, Ekria used her slicing skills to erase their identities from Jedi records and vanish into the shadows of the Empire's new order. Even in exile, she stayed defiant. She staged jailbreaks, infiltrated Imperial networks, and even faced Darth Vader himself. During a daring rescue on Tapasi, she faked her own death, taking a near fatal hit and fooling the Dark Lord long enough to escape with her companion, Drake Logan. With the Empire believing them dead, Ekria disappeared into legend. But even in hiding, she honored the Jedi way, burying her fallen friend Zonda on Salonia and walking the thin line between resistance and survival. Legends Jedi Lagan and Roganda Ismarin. Lagan and Roganda Ismarin were young Jedi initiates when the Jedi Order fell. Hidden away on Belsavis with the so-called Children of the Jedi, their sanctuary was shattered when Imperial forces discovered them. The siblings were captured and presented to Inquisitor Amis Daris. In front of Roganda's eyes, Daris drove a lightsaber through Lagan, an execution that forever changed her. While Lagan's story ends in tragedy, Roganda's took a far darker path. Instead of dying with the Order, Roganda rose, becoming an Imperial courtesan, seducing her way into Emperor Palpatine's inner circle. Her beauty, charm, and latent Force abilities won her a place in the Imperial court, and eventually the title of Emperor's Hand. She bore a son, Irek, whom she trained to one day seize power. After Palpatine's death, Roganda fled to Belsavis, scheming to elevate her son as the new Emperor. Using ancient tech and dark side science, she transformed Irek into a cybernetic, force-wielding monstrosity. Her dreams culminated in the reactivation of the Eye of Palpatine, a dreadnought from the Purge era, but her plan failed. Irek, now calling himself Lord Nyax, was eventually driven mad and butchered his own mother. Legends Jedi Jedgar. Jedgar began his life as a Jedi youngling in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, but even as a child, something about him unsettled his peers. He was haunted by dark visions, eerily accurate prophecies of death and destruction that would later become reality during the Clone Wars and Order 66. Feared and rejected by the other students and passed over for apprenticeship, Jedgar refused a quiet life in the agricultural corps. Instead, he vanished from the Jedi Order and stepped willingly into the darkness. His path led him to the Dark Jedi, Kadan, a former Jedi Knight who had also forsaken the Order. Their first meeting was short and prophetic. "I foresaw this meeting," Kadan said. "So did I," replied Jedgar. From that moment, Jedgar served as Kadan's apprentice, confidant, and bodyguard, eventually rising to become the High Prophet of the Dark Side. Under the banner of the Galactic Empire, Jedgar and the Prophets of the Dark Side whispered omens and visions into the Emperor's ear. But when visions foretold the fall of the Empire at the hands of Luke Skywalker, the prophets vanished into exile, waiting for the Force to shift once again. Jedgar, however, wasn't content to wait. Arrogant and power-hungry, he traveled the galaxy posing as a wandering dark Jedi, tempting Force sensitives with dark side training or eliminating them if they refused. Though his schemes often unraveled due to impatience, Jedgar's presence remained a shadowy threat for years. Legends Jedi Padawan Draka Judal. Draka Judal was a Zabrak Jedi Padawan who survived the purge through the sacrifice of her master. During the chaos of Order 66, her unnamed teacher gave his life to save hers, a final act that shaped her journey from frightened apprentice to self-made Jedi Knight. She escaped with the aid of a smuggler, eventually finding refuge on the quiet, windswept world of Dantooine. There, hiding in the ruins of the old Jedi Enclave, Draka lived in secrecy, watching the rise of the rebellion from the shadows. But her exile didn't mean inaction. Organizing guerrilla strikes with the native Dantari tribes, Draka became a phantom resistance leader, striking against the Empire while keeping her Force abilities hidden, just as her master had warned. But the time for hiding came to an end. When Imperials began teaching the dark side to the natives, Draka stepped forward. She trained rebels, guarded Jedi relics like the Codex of Tython, and even defied Darth Vader's looming shadow, though it would eventually cost her everything. Legends Jedi Kendalina. Known as the Jedi Princess, Kendalina was a Force-sensitive noblewoman who lived in secret after the fall of the Jedi Order, and who we assume survived Order 66. By 7 BBY, she had been forced into servitude working as a nurse in an Imperial insane asylum on the prison world of Kessel. There, she fell in love with a patient, Triclops, a secret son of Emperor Palpatine held in confinement due to his unstable mind and rebellious views. From that union, Kendalina gave birth to a child, Ken, later known as the Jedi Prince. Kendalina's defiance didn't last. She was killed by the Empire, but before her death, she ensured her child's safety. Ken was hidden deep beneath Yavin 4 in the lost city of the Jedi, raised by droid caretakers who preserved his heritage and nurtured his latent connection to the Force. Legends Jedi Knight Danan Kur. Danan Kur was once a Jedi Knight of the Republic, trained, respected, and loyal to the Order. But when Order 66 shattered the Jedi across the galaxy, Kur's fate took a darker turn. Rather than being hunted down like so many others, Kur was spared, not out of mercy, but because Darth Vader and the Emperor sensed something familiar. Kur was already slipping to the dark side. To Palpatine, that made him useful. A corrupted Jedi left unchecked would still serve the will of the Sith. Kur retreated to the remote world of Rannon, but he didn't quietly fade into exile. Instead, he descended further into madness, corrupted by the dark side and convinced that the Emperor's death was a lie. Around 7 ABY, the valley of Turnux, where Kur lived, began to rot, twisted by his power. Locals whispered of an insane dark magician whose presence withered the land. Kur began training Force-sensitive recruits, spreading his darkness across nearby sectors. His influence became so dangerous that rebel intelligence, led by General Aaron Kraken, placed a 15,000 credit bounty on his head. Legends Jedi Padawan Ifan Kenzon. Ifan Kenzon, once a Jedi Padawan, left the Order after clashing with its rules. On his homeworld of Baltim, he opened the School of Hidden Wisdom, secretly sheltering Jedi fugitives during the Purge and teaching basic Force techniques. During the Galactic Civil War, he aided the Rebel Alliance. Though nearly exposed in 4 ABY, Palpatine's death spared him. Several of his students later trained under Luke Skywalker, continuing Kenzon's quiet legacy of resistance. Legends Jedi Sainsaw Kal. Sainsaw Kal was a failed Jedi trainee who escaped Order 66 simply by being forgotten. Returning to the Hapes Consortium, he became a brilliant but unethical scientist. During the Yuuzhan Vong War, Jaina Solo sought his help to study Vong biotech. Kal succeeded by nearly killing a subject in the process. Though shunned for his methods, his work proved valuable to the New Republic, making him a survivor whose intellect outlasted his morality. Legends Jedi Lilith. Lilith was a Jedi trainee during the Republic's final years, but when the purge came, she didn't run, she turned. Rather than join the ranks of hunted Jedi, Lilith allied herself with the Empire, betraying everything she had once trained to become. As Imperial forces swept across the galaxy, she became one of their tools, helping hunt down her former brothers and sisters in the Force. Her most notable act came during the attack on Arakan, where she led the assaults against Jedi survivors. Legends Jedi Padawan Drake Logan. Drake Logan was a Jedi Padawan who survived the Clone Wars, Order 66, and even a direct confrontation with Vader himself. After his master, Roron Korob, was killed by General Grievous, Logan was sent to Felucia, where he fought alongside fellow Padawans Ekria and Zonda. When Order 66 was broadcast, they barely escaped the massacre and returned to Coruscant, becoming fugitives under the watch of the Inquisitors. Living in the shadows, they became vigilantes in the underworld, until their actions drew the attention of the Black Sun and Vader. After Zonda was killed by Vader, Logan and Ekria plotted revenge, leading to a final confrontation on Tepasi. Though severely wounded, Logan survived, and with Ekria, faked their deaths and vanished into obscurity. Legends Jedi Nikos Ma. Nikos Ma was one of the lucky few Jedi trainees to survive the Purge, hidden as a child in the underground enclave of Jedi Master Plet on Belsavis. When the Empire discovered the refuge, Ma fled once more, disappearing into the galaxy. He later became a renowned programmer and fell in love with a colleague, Cray Mingler. Both eventually joined Luke Skywalker's Praexium, where Ma trained as a Jedi Knight. But tragedy struck. He was diagnosed with Quanot's syndrome, a fatal degenerative disease. Desperate to save him, Cray transferred his consciousness into a droid using forbidden Siruk integument technology. But the attempt failed. Ma's body died, and the droid was only a replica. In a final act of love, Cray sacrificed herself to destroy the reawakened dreadnought Eye of Palpatine, perishing alongside the droid that bore Ma's face. Plinth now stands in his memory on Yavin 4. Legends Jedi Raik Mun. Raik Mun's story is one of obsession, vengeance, and a fall from grace that led her down a dark, twisted path. Once a Jedi trainee at the Almas Academy, Mun's emotional volatility and her forbidden love for fellow student Nek Lorsirk led to her dismissal by Jedi Master Kurloka. Humiliated and enraged, she turned to the dark side, vowing revenge on the Jedi who cast her out. Her vendetta became a years-long campaign to discredit and destroy the Jedi Order. She tried to unleash a rage-inducing dark side creature known as the Tsalak, and later impersonated Lorsirk to smear the Jedi's name in Kularin. Her plots only escalated, from attacking Jedi peace conferences to aligning herself with Inquisitor Valen Draco after the rise of the Empire. Though she survived Order 66, Raik Mun didn't stand for the Jedi. She hunted them, consumed by bitterness until her defeat at the hands of Alderaanian resistance agents. Legends Jedi Padawan Noira Na. Noira Na was just a young Padawan when the galaxy turned upside down. Fighting alongside her master and Jedi Knight, Kai Hadora, during the Battle of Tula, she tasted victory only to watch it turn into a nightmare when Order 66 was given. Noira saw her master Sims gunned down by clone troopers and barely escaped with her life. Fleeing across frozen wastelands and hiding beneath cities, she learned quickly that survival now meant sacrifice. Her robes, her name, even her lightsaber. Hadora disguised her as a slave boy, cut her hair, and smuggled her off-world. On Coruscant, she saw the Jedi Temple in ruins, the corpses of her fellow Jedi burning in the streets. It was there, among the crowds, that she truly understood her life as a Jedi was over. With tears in her eyes and nothing but a handful of credits, Noira walked away from the only life she'd ever known. Legends Jedi Laura Nadad. Born on the city world of Forad and orphaned young, Laura Nadad rose to become a protector of fellow orphans known as the Lost. Discovered to be Force-sensitive at 19, an unusually late age for Jedi training, she joined the Almas Academy, far from Coruscant's oversight. There, Nadad embraced the Jedi path on her own terms. When the Clone Wars broke out, she defied Jedi tradition and invoked the right of denial, refusing to serve in the Republic's army. But peace didn't last. The Almas Academy was destroyed by Dark Jedi Garth Ezar, and Nadad narrowly escaped the flames. As Order 66 spread like wildfire across the galaxy, Nadad vanished into the shadows of Kularin, hiding in a warehouse and surviving the purge. Legends Jedi Padawan Deron Nalual. Deron Nalual was a Togruta Padawan caught in the storm of Order 66. When the clones turned on her and her master, Siadem Forte, the two Jedi fought their way to survival, but Deron paid a steep price. From the planet Delalt, they called out for help, and against all odds, 8 Jedi answered. Together, they hijacked a transport and escaped Imperial pursuit, taking refuge aboard the smuggler ship Drunk Dancer. Among them was Padawan Oli Starstone, whose fire reignited hope. Their journey took them to Kashyyyk, seeking Master Yoda, but the Empire followed. Darth Vader himself led the attack, and Forte was slain in the confrontation. Deron survived, waiting patiently on the landing pad for her allies to return. In the aftermath, she chose a quieter path, working under the Empire's nose in construction and agriculture. Lightsaber set aside, she vowed to resist in subtle ways, becoming part of the hidden thread of Jedi who survived and endured. Legends Jedi Padawan Ferrus Olin. Ferrus Olin wasn't just a survivor of Order 66. He was a Jedi who walked away before it even happened. Once the Padawan of Siri Tachi and a rival to Anakin Skywalker, Ferrus was deeply committed to the Jedi Code, perhaps too much so. After the death of fellow Padawan Dara Tel Tanis on Korriban, Ferrus was consumed by guilt and chose to leave the Order, believing his strict adherence to the rules had contributed to her death. He disappeared into civilian life, settling on Balassa and opening a new identity-forging business with a friend, Rowan Lance. But when the Empire rose, Ferrus couldn't stand by. Though no longer a Jedi, he formed a resistance movement on Balassa, the 11, and helped smuggle Force sensitives to safety. Eventually, he reunited with Obi-Wan Kenobi and returned to the fight, rescuing fugitive Jedi, infiltrating the Empire, and even acting as a double agent within the Inquisitorius. He created a Jedi safe house on a hidden asteroid, gathered allies across the galaxy, and faced off against the darkest of enemies, including Emperor Palpatine himself. Ferrus discovered Darth Vader's true identity, battled the Inquisitors, and fought to protect Leia Organa without her ever knowing. In his final act, he confronted Vader directly, buying time for Leia to escape. He was struck down, but not before fulfilling his final purpose. Legends Jedi Padawan Diala Pasil. Diala Pasil was a Rutian Twi'lek Padawan who survived Order 66 thanks to the teachings of her master, Shu Yen, who perished during the Purge. Though her Jedi training was never completed, she lived on to fight the Empire as part of the Rebel Alliance. Haunted by her past, but driven by justice, Diala used her skills and the Force to resist tyranny, one of the few Jedi survivors who chose rebellion over hiding. Legends Jedi Padawan Chase Piru. Chase Piru was a young Jedi Padawan stationed on Bogden 3 when Order 66 turned her world upside down. As clone troopers turned on the Jedi, Piru fought to protect the soaring Hawkbat clan, Younglings under her care, alongside Masters Kukruk and Sian Jaisil. Though Jaisil fell, Piru and the children escaped with Kukruk and sought refuge on a remote moon. What followed was a journey of survival, heartbreak, and resilience. Attacked by pirates hoping to claim the Empire's Jedi bounty, Piru was gravely wounded defending the Younglings. Nursed back to health by Kukruk, she joined him in a daring rescue that ended in bloodshed and Kukruk's explosive release of rage. Despite the violence, Piru stood by him, embodying the Jedi commitment to protect the innocent. Their journey eventually brought them to Arkinia, where Piru helped uncover a horrifying secret. The local militia was massacring refugees. Together with Kukruk and Jedi Master Zhao, she led the Younglings into hiding. Guided by the Force, they discovered an ancient Jedi outpost in a hidden valley, where they founded a new sanctuary. Legends Jedi Jinlo Race. Jinlo Race was no warrior. He was a student of knowledge, apprenticed to Jedi archivist Jocasta Nu. Raised in the great halls of the Jedi Temple, Race spent his youth lost in ancient texts and secret corridors, curious about Jedi history and the mysteries of the Force. But when Order 66 came crashing down, all that studying suddenly became a matter of life and death. As Darth Vader and the 501st marched into the temple, Jocasta Nu entrusted her Padawan with data chips and a map of Coruscant's underworld. Thanks to the very passageways he once explored out of curiosity, Race slipped through the chaos and disappeared into the shadows. For months, he dodged the Empire's gaze, eventually finding a ride to Chandrila and beginning a quiet journey across the galaxy, not as a Jedi, but as a seeker. Race never found other Jedi, but what he did find were scattered Force sensitives, beings with a spark in need of guidance. So, though he'd never finished his own training, Race stepped into the role of teacher. On world after world, he planted seeds of the old ways, forming hidden cells of Force adepts he called the Agents of Ossus, named for the ancient Jedi library world lost long ago. Legends Jedi Jock Sa. Jock Sa's first solo mission as a Jedi commander was supposed to be simple: secure an outpost on the remote world of Ragmar 5. Instead, it became the day the galaxy turned on him. Dispatched with a squad of clone troopers, Sa was eager for action, but not this kind. When his gunship was shot down near a settlement of outcasts, tensions were high. But before talks turned to violence, Order 66 came through. His own troops turned on him in an instant. Forced into an uneasy alliance with Garn, the leader of the outcasts, Sa survived the ambush and realized the awful truth. The Republic he'd fought for had branded him a traitor. His master Sev was dead. The Jedi were being hunted. Sa and Garn didn't run. Together, they fought back, launching guerrilla strikes against the Empire's clone patrols across Ragmar 5. Sa, once a proud Jedi and loyal commander, became a shadow warrior, surviving alongside outlaws and rebels. Legends Jedi Knight Sardoth. Sardoth was once a Jedi Knight, but his fall to the dark side came long before the Empire's purge began. Trained under a master who dabbled in darkness, Sardoth embraced it fully, and when Order 66 came, he didn't run, he joined the hunt. Allying himself with the Empire and the Inquisitorius, Sardoth helped track down fellow Jedi, hoping his loyalty would grant him power. But like many tools of the Sith, he was discarded once he outlived his usefulness. Fleeing to the Outer Rim world of Ahakista, Sardoth reinvented himself as the owner of the Daystar Casino and right hand to the crime lord Reyes. Beneath the gambling tables and flashing lights, Sardoth kept a collection of Jedi lightsabers, trophies from fallen friends and foes. But ambition never left him. When a rebel mission brought the mysterious Adarkar Nil to his doorstep, Sardoth sensed something familiar: the lightsaber of his old master. In a hidden chamber beneath the casino, Sardoth confronted Nil, only for their duel to be interrupted by Darth Vader himself. Seeing a chance to rise once again, Sardoth groveled before the Dark Lord, hoping for the title of Sith. Vader, cold and unimpressed, responded not with words, but with a lightsaber. One swift stroke, and Sardoth's story ended. Legends Jedi Oli Starstone. Originally trained by Jedi librarian Jocasta Nu, Oli was more scholar than soldier, until the Clone Wars pulled her into the field under Master Bol Chetak. By the time Order 66 hit, she was on Mokana with Chetak and Rowan Shrine. The clones turned, but not all obeyed. Clone Commando Clymer and his Ion team refused the order, helping Starstone and the others escape. After seeing her master killed by Darth Vader and barely surviving a brush with the Dark Lord herself, Starstone went underground, but not into exile. She refused to believe the Jedi were finished. She became the driving force behind a desperate search for survivors, dragging even a reluctant Shrine back into the fight. Her quest led her to Kashyyyk, where she and a small band of Jedi, including 2 Younglings, were drawn into a trap set by the Empire. Vader struck down most of them, but Starstone escaped thanks to Shrine's sacrifice. That was the moment she finally understood. Survival wasn't about keeping the flame burning brightly, it was about preserving it quietly. She faded into the shadows, boarding a smuggler ship and living among allies like Chewbacca, choosing to fight the Empire subtly from the fringes. Legends Jedi Canon Survivors. Born on Mihaly, Canon Survivors was a powerful Force-sensitive but never trained by the Jedi. When Order 66 hit, he wasn't on the run because he was a Jedi, he was hunted because he could become one. After his parents were murdered by the Empire, Kaj fled to Coruscant, hiding in the planet's underworld, but he couldn't hide what he was for long. His raw Force abilities burned like a beacon, drawing the Inquisitorius straight to him. It was during one of these deadly encounters that Kaj was saved by Jedi fugitive Jax Pavan and the Grey Paladin, Laranth Tarak. Jax took the boy as a Padawan, but training Kaj was anything but easy. He was powerful but volatile. His pain and anger often made him dangerous to himself and others. The group used a Talzin amulet to help mask his Force presence, but his potential kept making him a target. Eventually, Kaj was captured and used as bait by Darth Vader himself. His mind was shattered by Vader's power, his memories, his spirit fractured. But he was rescued by Jax and sent to the Tragutan healers on Shili, where there was still hope he could recover. Legends Jedi Anna Tarthis. Anna Tarthis was trained in secret during the Empire's reign by a former Jedi named Lady Karen. For 3 years, she learned Force healing, far-seeing, and focus through meditation and physical labor in Karen's garden. Then, just as suddenly as she appeared, Karen vanished, leaving Anna alone but prepared. While not a survivor of Order 66 in the traditional sense, Anna represents a different kind of Jedi legacy. Quiet, hidden, and resilient in the shadow of the Empire. Legends Jedi Padawan Antonis Tremaine. Antonis Tremaine was once a Padawan who trained under Jedi Master Dav Kilanu. Tremaine was captured during the Clone Wars and imprisoned, but when the Jedi fell, Tremaine wasn't executed, he was recruited. Brought before Darth Vader and Biss, he was chosen to join the Inquisitorius. Tremaine quickly embraced the dark side, becoming one of the Empire's most feared interrogators. His obsession with hunting Jedi, especially fugitives like Drake Logan and Corwin Shelvey, was legendary and often personal. He even developed a sadistic reputation for torture, gaining command of the Interrogator, an Imperial Star Destroyer, and executing prisoners and officers alike with terrifying efficiency. But Tremaine's ambition often outpaced his ability. He lost his right arm and eye to Shelvey during a duel and was forced to wear clunky prosthetics, handpicked by Vader as a reminder of his arrogance. Still, he remained loyal, even aligning with Vader's former rival Hethrir after the fall of the Empire. Legends Glovan Thul. Glovan Thul, known only to locals as the Wise Man of Koru, was a mysterious figure living in quiet exile on the remote world of Gelgalar. Rumor had it he was once a Jedi, or at least a Padawan who had survived the purge of Order 66 and vanished into the Outer Rim. Thul never confirmed his past. He simply arrived one day, took up residence in the Shrine of Koru, and became a quiet prophet to pilgrims seeking wisdom. Locals would often find him reclined on animal hides, pipe in hand, dispensing cryptic guidance in exchange for food and conversation. Despite the peaceful exterior, Thul still held a strong connection to the Force. He eventually took on a student, a young Celestin named Talarin Lan, teaching him the rare ability known as merge senses, a technique that allowed minds to intertwine. When the boy overreached, trapping his consciousness inside the body of a bird, it was Thul's precognition that saved him, proving the old hermit's power had never truly faded. Legends Jedi Padawan Cody Tai. Cody Tai was a Togruta Padawan who was banished by the Jedi Order before Order 66 happened. During the Clone Wars, Tai joined Master Bedard Tone and rogue Padawan Flynn Kaibo on an unsanctioned mission to hunt down General Grievous. They hoped vengeance would bring justice, but instead walked straight into chaos. On the moon of Belsis, Grievous had captured a group of Padawans, and the mission turned from assassination to rescue. Tai fought bravely alongside the miners and younglings, protecting them as his master Kybo faced Grievous. When the battle ended in flames, Ty emerged alive. His friends and master did not. He returned the rescued children to Coruscant and stood before the Jedi Council, accepting exile without protest. In his own words, "I want nothing for myself." Legends Jedi Padawan Misha Vekian. Misha Vekian was once a Jedi Padawan until the dark side found her. After surviving the purge, Vekian was captured by the Inquisitorius and turned into something far more dangerous than a fallen Jedi. She became an officer in the Imperial Navy, known as much for her cruelty as for her command of the Force. Her troops feared her more than any enemy, and for good reason. Failure meant death. By 17 BBY, she was hunting Jedi herself. During a mission to intercept the Alderaanian resistance, Vekian boarded the frigate Resurgence, fighting alongside Inquisitor Valen Draco. As Draco left with the captured Jedi Master Denia, Vekian stayed behind to mop up the survivors. She unleashed her fury in the hangar bay, using battle meditation to bolster her troops and cut down anyone in her way. The resistance fighters were too late to save Denia and barely escaped with their lives. Legends Soaring Hawkbat Clan Younglings. The Soaring Hawkbat Clan, once just a group of bright-eyed Jedi younglings, became one of the most tragic and inspiring stories of survival after Order 66. Originally trained in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, they were stationed on Bogdan III during the Outer Rim sieges. There, under Jedi Master Du-Man and Padawan Chase Piru, they lived in temporary safety until the clones turned. Order 66 hit the chapter house with brutal efficiency. Younglings gunned down, their teachers fighting to shield whoever they could. Marn died in the fight, while Master Jacil sacrificed himself with a thermal detonator to ensure their escape. From that moment on, these children were survivors. Led by Master Kukruk and Piru, the Hawkbats fled to a jungle moon. But peace didn't last. Pirates ambushed their camp, intending to sell the children to the Empire. Kukruk, furious and desperate, fought like a beast to save them, his rage even scaring the younglings he tried to protect. Eventually, they found themselves crash-landed on Arkinia and trapped in a brutal refugee system where the local militia was secretly exterminating displaced people. Jedi Master Zhao, a mystic and pacifist, found them just in time. He and Kukruk helped the children flee into the wilds, where they discovered an old Jedi outpost and a hidden valley. With the help of the Yed of Yunu, they built a sanctuary. Legends Agri-Corps Survivors. The Jedi Agricultural Corps, often overlooked and dismissed as a dumping ground for failed Padawans, became an unexpected cradle of survival after Order 66. Many of its members, like Jan Blue and Nam Porf, were spared the immediate fury of clone troopers simply because they weren't on the front lines. But make no mistake, survival didn't come easy. Jan Blue and Nam Porf were stationed on Bonadan, using their connection to the Force not to fight but to heal the environment. When the purge began, they were en route to Coruscant but quickly realized the galaxy had turned on them. The pair went underground, eventually joining 8 other survivors. They hijacked a troop shuttle, dodged Imperial fire, and were rescued by smugglers aboard the Drunk Dancer. Their escape took them to Kashyyyk, where they tried to regroup, but there they faced Darth Vader himself. Lu lost an arm, Porf a leg. Still, they survived, vowing to quietly sabotage the Empire from within. Then there were those like Gwelib Ap Luf, Halmir, Lanu Pasik, and Sarkev Quest, Agri-Corps dropouts who didn't run but joined the Empire. Captured and brought to Biss, they were handpicked by Vader to become Inquisitors and Darkside adepts. Trained to hunt Jedi, they turned from failures into feared enforcers of the Sith. Ap Luef and Halmir would rise to become twisted reflections of what they'd once trained to be, while Sarkev Quest, once Palpatine's personal Chancellor's hand, would help engineer the Empire's final death in a grab for power. In the end, the Agri-Corps, meant to be a quiet footnote in the Jedi Order, produced both hidden heroes and corrupted villains. Legends Jedi Valara Sar. Born on the remote world of Yashavu, Valara Sar was Force-sensitive and descended from a Jedi who had crash-landed there generations earlier. When a Republic vessel made contact with the planet before the Clone Wars, Sar seized the opportunity learning Galactic Basic, serving as a translator and convincing the crew to take her off-world to follow the path of the Jedi. She trained briefly, but her free spirit clashed with Jedi structure. Denied full acceptance into the Order, she walked her own path. Saw wandered the galaxy, offering her Force skills in exchange for passage and helping where she could. But eventually, disillusioned with the galaxy and its wars, she returned home. There, Saw became a hermit in the Yashaka Mountains. Locals came to call her the Prophetess. She taught the Force in her own way, selectively, cautiously, passing on wisdom rooted in Jedi ideals, but reshaped by her solitude and experience. She raised Duvals as loyal companions, and when the Chiss Ascendancy sent a landing party to Yashuvu years later, she repelled them, wielding what may have been a lightsaber. Her teachings and defiance were uncovered decades later by Luke Skywalker during his search for Zonama Seikot. In a time when most Jedi were hunted, forgotten, or dead, Valara Sar survived, alone, unrecognized by the Order, but never truly lost to the Force.